You've been lied to about peace. They told you it comes from silence, from the right mattress, from escaping your thoughts. But if that were true, why do you lay in bed with your eyes closed and your mind wide open? Why does your body feel tired but your thoughts keep running in circles? Why does the stillness outside feel so loud inside? The truth is, peace doesn't come from forcing your mind to shut up. It comes from seeing your thoughts for what they really are, not facts, not reality, just passing clouds in an open sky. Buddhist wisdom teaches something most people never hear in their lifetime, that your thoughts are not you, your worries are not real, and sleep isn't something you win, it's something you fall into when you let go. For centuries, monks have trained their minds to be still, not by fighting their thoughts, but by understanding a powerful truth: emptiness. Not a cold, scary emptiness, but a quiet one, a freeing one where you realize nothing you're worried about is as solid as it seems. Tonight, you'll learn how to see through your thoughts, like sunlight shining through mist. You'll feel your body relax, your mind slow down, and something deep inside you will shift. This isn't just another voice telling you to breathe and count backwards. This is ancient medicine for your restless mind. This is 3+ hours of Buddhist wisdom to melt the tension you didn't even know you were holding. By the end of this, you won't just be sleeping, you'll be still, at peace, whole. Are you ready to let go? Let's begin. You're here now. The light is low, the world is quiet. But your mind? Still busy. Thoughts rising like steam. Regrets, what-ifs, to-dos you didn't finish. Fears you never said out loud. You're not alone. Many people feel it, especially at night. When there's nothing to distract us, we meet the mind face to face. But tonight will be different, because what you're about to hear holds a kind of medicine that doesn't fight the thoughts. It makes them fall apart. Not with effort, not with control, but through understanding. Emptiness is one of those words people think they understand, like silence or nothingness, but in Buddhism, it means something far deeper. Something that can gently but completely shift the way you relate to your mind, especially when you're lying awake in the dark. In Sanskrit, it's called shunyata. At first, it might sound sad. Emptiness, isn't that loneliness? A void? But the emptiness taught by the Buddha is not the absence of meaning, it's the absence of solid, unchangeable identity in anything at all. And that is exactly where freedom begins. Let's look at a restless thought, one of those tight, nagging ones. I messed up. I'll never get it right. That thought feels real, heavy, sticky, as if it's made of something. It has a voice, a feeling in your chest. It creates a whole emotional world. But what is it, really? It's not a thing. It can't be held. It's not outside you. It arises in the mind, then fades, only to be replaced by another. The thought appears because of memory, tension, self-image, fatigue, conditions. And when those conditions change, the thought changes too. Emptiness is the understanding that nothing stands alone. No thought, no emotion, no belief arises by itself. Everything comes from something. Everything depends on something. And that includes your anxiety. The stories that play in your head at night about failure, rejection, uncertainty are not solid truths. They're not you. They're constructions. Little films projected in your awareness. When you see this, when you really see it, the grip of those thoughts loosens. You stop needing to fight them. You simply see them, and they dissolve. There is nothing to push away, because there is nothing to hold on to. Your body begins to relax the moment the mind stops clinging. But here's the thing. We don't cling because we want to suffer. We cling because we believe these thoughts are protecting us. That worrying will prepare us. That overthinking will solve something. That being hard on ourselves will make us better. It never does. The understanding of shunyata reveals that even the self you think you are the one lying there, worrying, overanalyzing, aching for control is not fixed. Your identity is also a process, shaped by memories, habits, fears, and dreams. And this too shifts. You're not the same you were 5 years ago, even yesterday. So why believe the voice in your head when it says, "This is just the way I am"? It's not. When you see that, when you let go of that need to be a certain way or get everything right, your mind finds space. Thoughts still come, but they don't stick, like writing on water, there and gone. At night, the mind often brings its loudest worries. It thinks now is the time to solve them all. But if you were to ask your mind, "Where are these thoughts coming from?" it wouldn't be able to answer. Not truly. It would keep redirecting, looping, because the nature of thoughts is movement. That's all they are, motion. Emptiness doesn't mean we deny what we feel. It means we stop solidifying it. We stop turning waves into walls. The sadness? It's real, but it moves. The fear? Also real, but not permanent. The guilt? Yes, it's there. But it's not the whole truth of who you are. This shift in seeing this deep, quiet clarity has the power to change everything. It doesn't just give you peace in the moment. It changes the entire way you relate to your experience. Even your body knows this. When your mind tightens, your breath shortens, your jaw clenches, the chest tightens. Your body reacts to the illusion that the thought is a threat. But once the mind sees the thought for what it is, a passing echo, not a monster, the body lets go. And with that release, sleep becomes possible. Not because you forced it, but because there's nothing left trying to stay awake. Let's go deeper. There's a famous teaching in Buddhism called the Two Truths. It explains that we live with two kinds of reality: conventional truth and ultimate truth. Conventional truth is, I'm a person. I have a name. I'm lying in bed right now, thinking. Ultimate truth is, all these labels, all these experiences are temporary constructions like sandcastles. Both are valid. But knowing ultimate truth is what liberates us from suffering. So when a stressful thought arises, I'm not doing enough, they don't care about me, what if I fail? You can hold it with both truths. You can acknowledge the feeling without letting it control you. You can say, yes, this thought is here, but it's not solid, it's not forever, it's just passing through. This is how you start to disarm the mind, gently. There's a line from the Zen tradition: thoughts are visitors. Let them come and go, just don't serve them tea. Emptiness doesn't kill thought, it makes it weightless. That's why this isn't about becoming thoughtless or blank. It's about recognizing the true nature of mind, clear, open, and aware, with thoughts passing like weather across the sky. And here's something important. This insight doesn't require you to be a monk. You don't have to renounce the world or memorize ancient texts. You only need to see clearly. That's what mindfulness is. Seeing with understanding. In the early Buddhist texts, the Buddha compared thoughts to mirages, like heat waves on a road. They look real, but when you try to hold them, there's nothing there. The suffering begins when we chase them, trying to fix, solve, control. But if you just observe, if you just sit quietly with awareness, a strange thing happens. The thoughts start losing their grip. Not because they went away, but because your belief in them did. Belief is what gives them power. This is why Buddhist meditation isn't about doing something to your thoughts. It's about looking at them until the illusion fades, noticing their shape, their tone, their origin, without jumping in, like watching leaves float down a stream instead of trying to grab them all. So, how do you bring this into your night? When you lie in bed, instead of chasing peace, just become aware, gently. Feel the breath. Notice the thoughts. Don't try to stop them. Just notice. And then silently ask, what is this thought made of? That question alone can cut through a mountain of worry, because when you really look, you'll find there's nothing there, just energy, just patterns. Your nervous system will feel this shift. The body listens to the mind. When the mind relaxes its grip, the body follows. Your breath gets deeper, the muscles soften, your heartbeat slows. And slowly, you're drawn into rest not as an escape, but as a return to natural stillness. You're not pushing thoughts away, you're just seeing them clearly. This kind of seeing doesn't get old, it deepens. Each night, the mind may bring new stories, but each time you'll meet them with a little more space, a little more wisdom. Noticing the space between the thoughts, the silence beneath them, the awareness that's always present, even when the thoughts are loud. That awareness is not empty in a sad way. It's empty like a wide-open sky, vast, clear, peaceful, and it's always here, right now. You don't need to create it, you only need to notice it. And here's something you may not expect. The more you practice this, the less afraid you become, just at night, but in life. Because you've seen the truth, that thoughts are not rulers. Feelings are not facts. You are not your anxiety. You are the space that holds it all. Even dreams start to change. When your waking mind understands emptiness, your dream mind begins to loosen too. The mind doesn't need to process unprocessed stress in the same way. Sleep becomes clearer, lighter, more healing. You begin to trust sleep again, and not as a goal to achieve, but as a natural rhythm, a release. This shift is quiet, but it's powerful, because it breaks the oldest habit we have, believing that peace comes from fixing everything out there. Peace comes from seeing clearly in here. Tonight, as you lie down, let this truth rest with you. No thought is permanent, no fear is final, and nothing in your mind has more power than your awareness of it. You are already spacious, already free, already still. Rest in that, let go, and let the emptiness carry you. You've just seen thoughts dissolve when you stop believing they're solid. How the weight you carry in your head doesn't belong to you the way you thought it did. And in that seeing, you felt its stillness. But what if that stillness didn't have to stop there? What if sleep wasn't just a break from life, but part of the path itself? The Buddha didn't ignore rest. He didn't treat sleep like a pause between practice. For him, and for those who followed his teachings, rest was not an escape, it was a continuation. The same awareness that sees through the illusion of thought can also transform the way we fall asleep, the way we lie in bed, the way we enter the space between waking and dreaming. This isn't about meditation instead of sleep, it's about letting meditation become sleep. And that begins with the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, the Buddha's great discourse on mindfulness. It lays out the foundations for deep awareness. Not awareness in the abstract, but in the most human ways possible, through the body, through feeling, through the mind, and through what's true. For centuries, Buddhist practitioners have turned to these foundations, not just during sitting meditation, but in every moment of their lives, including the hours between sunset and sleep. Because the truth is, how we fall asleep matters. When the mind is scattered, sleep becomes shallow. When the heart is heavy, dreams become dense. But when mindfulness is present, the boundary between practice and rest dissolves. Awareness doesn't have to stop just because the day does. In fact, that's when it becomes most powerful, because the filters drop, the masks fall. All that's left is what's real. The first foundation is the body. In bed, this is where your mindfulness begins. Not in the head, not in thoughts, in sensation, in contact, in how the blanket touches your skin. In the rhythm of your breath moving in and out, naturally. You don't have to breathe differently, you only have to feel it, follow it. Let the body tell you what's true. If there is tightness, don't resist it. If there's warmth, rest in it. Scan slowly, not with control but with kindness. Start from the toes, noticing, not labeling. just letting each part of you know, I'm here. This kind of attention isn't mental, it's grounding. It makes your body feel safe enough to release. The nervous system softens when it feels seen, and the body, no matter how tired, is always listening. The second foundation is feeling, not emotion, but the subtle tone of each moment. Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, without judgment. As you lie down, you may notice pleasure in the softness of your pillow, or discomfort in your back, or a numbness that doesn't ask for attention. The point isn't to change anything. It's to know what's present. Knowing feeling tones in real time trains the mind to stop reacting blindly. The discomfort isn't a threat. The pleasure isn't a trap. Each sensation is part of a changing field. Noticing this changes your relationship to rest. You no longer chase sleep, you allow it. Then there's the third foundation, the mind. Noticing the state you're in. Is the mind contracted or open? Dull or sharp? Restless or relaxed? You don't fix it. You don't analyze it. You observe it the same way you'd watch a candle flicker, noticing when the flame steadies, noticing when it leans. This allows sleep to arrive without resistance. You are not your mind state. You are the one who sees it. This simple truth turns even the busiest mental activity into something workable. No need to clear your mind before bed. You're not here to be empty, you're here to be aware. And then comes the fourth foundation, Dhamma's mental patterns, themes, truths. These include the hindrances that often show up most strongly at night: desire, aversion, restlessness, sloth, doubt. Noticing which ones are present gives you space. It lets you see, restlessness is here. Not I am restless. Just, this is what's arising now. This shift is everything. It's the difference between drowning in your thoughts and floating above them. You're no longer trying to be peaceful. You're simply meeting what's here with clarity, and that is peace. These four foundations aren't meant to be forced. They're reminders, gentle invitations. When lying in bed, instead of getting caught in looping thoughts, return to one of the four. Ask, where's my attention? What's my body feeling? What's the tone? Is there grasping? Is there ease? This isn't control, it's surrender with awareness. And it leads to a kind of rest that doesn't depend on the absence of thought. It doesn't even depend on falling asleep quickly. The depth comes from how present you are as sleep arrives. Most people see sleep as nothing, but in Buddhist practice, it's far from that. It's a state of change, of letting go, of softening identity. Your usual sense of me starts to fade. The boundaries blur, the mind unwinds. In that process, you meet something that's not sleep and not wakefulness, a transitional space. This is where awareness can stay. Not as effort, not as watching, as resting in presence. The Tibetan tradition calls it the clear light of sleep, a state where consciousness is not distracted, not split, just open. This is available to Anyoninot, just monks or yogis. It starts with trust. Trust that you don't have to force rest, that your awareness can hold the process without grabbing it, that there's a stillness even in transition. To sleep like a Buddha doesn't mean being perfect. It doesn't mean always feeling calm. It means meeting the edge of night with wisdom, with honesty, with attention, without trying to run away from what the moment holds. And it continues as sleep deepens. The habits of mind you bring into rest shape the quality of it. If you carry judgment, the dreams reflect it. If you carry resistance, the body doesn't fully release. But if you bring awareness, even loosely, even softly, something changes. You don't fall asleep unconsciously. You transition with care. Over time, this creates a different relationship with the night. Sleep isn't a battle. It's not something you succeed or fail at. It becomes an extension of practice, a field where stillness matures, where patterns show themselves, where the self gently unravels. This practice is quiet. invisible, but it's transformative. And the reason it works is simple. It's aligned with how things truly are. Sleep is impermanent. Thought is impermanent. Identity is impermanent. The body is impermanent. To rest deeply, you have to stop pretending they're not. When you let these truths in, not as philosophy, but as lived experience, something inside you stops clinging, and that unclenching allows true rest, not just physical, but spiritual. Deep, regenerative rest. This also reshapes how you wake. When mindfulness is present at sleep's edge, it echoes into morning. You wake with more space, more clarity, more kindness. The momentum of awareness continues. You feel less caught in stories, less tangled in thought, because you've practiced letting go, not once, but every night. This isn't about adding a new ritual, it's about bringing depth to what already happens. You're already lying down, already closing your eyes. The invitation is to meet that process with presence, with honesty, with curiosity. Over time, the bed becomes a place of retreat, not escape, but return. A return to what's essential, what's real, what's alive in you, even in stillness. And this shows up in subtle ways, in how you respond to stress the next day, in how your body feels after waking, in how you relate to thought not as a trap, but as passing weather. That shift is not dramatic, but it's powerful, because it touches everything. This is the kind of peace that doesn't leave when life gets loud, because it wasn't built on silence, it was built on seeing. To sleep like a Buddha is to let the night become your teacher, to listen, to soften, to rest not just because you're tired, but because you trust the wisdom that arises in stillness. No need to search for peace. You are resting in it now, and the more you recognize that, the deeper you go, not into unconsciousness, but into truth. Let the breath guide you. Let the body hold you. Let awareness stay not as watcher, but as presence, as silence, as space. Nothing more is needed. You're already home. The body is still. The breath is slow. Awareness has softened its edges. What was once noise has turned to silence. Thought no longer commands the room. And in this space, something else begins to open, not the end of consciousness, but a new doorway. You're not gone. You're just shifting. Sleep doesn't erase the mind. It reveals it. Everything you've practiced in stillness now enters a deeper field, where logic dissolves, where stories rearrange themselves, where the subconscious speaks in symbols and emotions you never gave voice to during the day. But this world, this space where dreams unfold, is not random. It's not chaos. It holds patterns. It reflects you. And in Buddhist tradition, it's a sacred ground for transformation. Yogacara, one of the profound schools of Mahayana Buddhism, teaches that all experience is mind, not just what we think while awake, but what we perceive, project, and react to even in our dreams. According to Yogacara, what you call reality is a display of consciousness itself. That includes the night, that includes the dream, and what happens there isn't separate from who you are. This matters because the mind doesn't stop creating just because the body lies down. In fact, some of its most creative and karmic activity happens after you've surrendered the day. The teachings say that dreams are not illusions to be dismissed. They are mirrors, they are messengers, and when met with awareness, they become medicine. Dream yoga is not about control. It's not about having fun inside your dreams or escaping from reality. It's about learning to recognize the dream as dream while it's happening, to bring lucidity into that space. Not just to manipulate it, but to understand it. To meet it with the same mindfulness you bring to breath. To let it show you what's been hidden. The subconscious is not the enemy, but it is layered. Years of impressions, attachments, aversions, unresolved fearsful of it lives below the surface. And during sleep, those layers move. They rise. They express themselves. Dream yoga teaches that these movements are not random. They are karmic ripples, and awareness inside the dream can transform them. In lucid dream practice, the first step is remembering. The more present you are during the day, the more likely you are to wake up inside a dream. This is because the mind that recognizes dreaming is the same mind that recognizes impermanence. It sees patterns. It sees the unreal as unreal. And this capacity grows with mindfulness. So daytime practice is essential. The way you observe thoughts while awake is the same way you learn to observe them while asleep. The boundary isn't as solid as we think. When you cultivate present moment awareness throughout the day, checking in, noticing the breath, questioning assumptions, you're training the mind to stay aware even when the body sleeps. There's also the practice of reflection before bed. Before sleep, recall your day with honesty, not judgment, clarity. Where did the mind tighten? What emotional residue is still there? What was left unresolved? When you do this gently, you give the subconscious fewer reasons to push those patterns into dream. You're not suppressing, you're acknowledging, and acknowledgement purifies. Then, as you fall asleep, the practice deepens. Set the intention to remain aware. This isn't mental effort, it's a soft resolve. A whisper to the mind, I will recognize the dream. You don't need to force anything. This isn't about control, it's about creating the conditions for lucidity to arise naturally. When lucidity begins, when you find yourself dreaming and know it, you don't have to rush. You don't have to do anything. Just rest in that knowing. Let the dream continue. Watch what the mind creates. And see it not as real, but as projection. The people, the places, the fears, the desires, each one is part of your own consciousness. When you realize this fully, even inside a dream, transformation begins. Karmic patterns can unwind in dreams. You may find yourself reliving old situations, this time with awareness. You may meet people who trigger strong emotion, this time with compassion. You may face fears, this time without running. In dream yoga, the goal isn't to change the dream. It's to wake up inside it, to hold it in stillness, and to let your own wisdom digest it. This digestion doesn't come from analysis, it comes from direct experience. Seeing clearly in the dream space allows emotions to discharge, stories to release. The body may even feel lighter in the morning, not just from physical rest, but because something deeper was let go. Some dreams are peaceful, some are disturbing, both are useful. A disturbing dream isn't failure, it's a teaching. It shows you what's still held, what's still feared, what still clung to. And when you meet that with awareness, even if only briefly, it changes. The pattern loses momentum. This is karmic clearing, not in a mystical sense, but in a deeply psychological one. The habits of mind that cause suffering don't just play out while awake. They show themselves in the symbolic language of sleep. And when you stop reacting, when you bring attention without grasping, those habits weaken. Over time, this changes how you sleep. Lucid or not, dreams become less reactive. The emotional charge softens, the mind becomes less chaotic. The content may still arise, but it doesn't shake you the same way. This is purification, not by suppression, but by insight. And there's something more. Dream yoga teaches that sleep is a rehearsal for death, not in a dark way, but in a profound one. Every night, the sense of self dissolves, the body is left behind. Consciousness enters unknown territory. This is similar to the process of dying. Learning to stay aware during sleep prepares the mind to stay aware during the biggest transition of all. If you can recognize dream as dream, you can recognize illusion as illusion. You can move through fear, through uncertainty, with clarity, with grace. This also means that how you wake matters. When you open your eyes, the practice doesn't end. Ask yourself, what was just present. Not trying to remember everything, just making contact with the tail end of the experience. The more gently you wake, the more of the dream you carry into reflection, and the more insight you gain from it. Keep a journal. Write without editing. Let the symbols speak. You don't need to interpret everything. Just notice. Over time, patterns emerge. You'll start to see how your inner world speaks when you're not filtering it, and you'll see how your awareness is learning to stay, to rest, to return. This isn't about mastering sleep. It's about softening into awareness, no matter what state you're in. Yogacara teaches that the line between dream and waking life is thinner than we think. Both are projections of mind. Both can be met with wisdom. The mind that wakes up in sleep is the same mind that wakes up in life. The benefits of this are quiet but deep. You feel more at ease with uncertainty, less controlled by fear, less identified with the drama of thoughts. Because you've seen what it's like to watch the show without believing it. This is freedom not in theory, but in lived experience. Even if lucidity doesn't happen every night, the practice continues. Every effort made to stay present during sleep supports presence during the day. The boundary dissolves. Rest becomes part of the path. The hours of night are no longer a break from awareness, but a field for it. This is how healing happens. Not all at once, not with effort, but through the gentle, consistent willingness to stay close, to be with what's arising, to trust the wisdom already present in the mind itself. Yogacara doesn't ask you to fix your dreams. It invites you to see them, to bow to them, to meet even the strangest images with reverence, because nothing arises without meaning and nothing lasts. Awareness is the thread. Through waking, through sleeping, through all transitions. You're not doing this to achieve anything. You're doing this to see clearly, to let go, to live in alignment with truth even when the body is still and the world has gone quiet. So tonight, as you enter sleep, take this knowing with you. Let awareness travel with you. Let it rest in the spaces in between. No pressure, no force, just presence. Everything you need is already here. You don't need to control, you only need to see. And when you do, even your dreams become sacred. Even the darkest night becomes light. And your rest becomes more than rest, it becomes freedom. The deeper you go into awareness, the more subtle the mind becomes. Even dreams, once loud and chaotic, start to quiet when seen clearly. But sometimes, what lingers isn't thought or story, it's feeling. Tightness in the heart, bitterness that didn't get voiced, sadness with nowhere to go. These don't always show up in dreams. They show up in tone, the mood you carry into the night. And that tone shapes your rest. What the body can release, the heart often holds. And it's here, in this quiet space before sleep, that one of the most powerful practices unfolds. Not intellectual, not analytical, but deeply human. In Buddhist teachings, there are 4 qualities that can transform the entire landscape of your inner world. Not by force, not by trying to be nice, but by returning to what the heart already knows. These 4 are called the Brahma Viharas, the divine abodes. They are not beliefs, they are mental trainings. And when practiced before sleep, they become purification. Not of sin or guilt, but of heaviness, of mental noise, of emotional friction. Each night, your mind takes with it everything unprocessed. That last conversation, that resentment, that moment you wished had gone differently. If left unexamined, these become knots. Knots that tighten in the subconscious, knots that disturb rest. But when met with these 4 immeasurables, those knots begin to soften. You enter the night not carrying, but cleansing. The first quality is loving kindness. Not romantic, not sentimental, but a quiet wish for the well-being of self and others. To practice this is not to feel warmth automatically. It's to intentionally generate a phrase, a thought, a vibration that says, "May you be safe, may you be happy, may you rest in ease." This is not about forcing love, it's about choosing goodwill even when emotion is missing. You start with yourself, not because self-love is more important, but because it's often the most neglected. You offer the words inward, slowly, even if they feel distant, especially if they do. May I be peaceful. May I release the tension I'm holding. May I rest fully tonight. Then you widen. Think of someone close, a friend, a teacher, a sibling. Offer the same wish, not with a need to fix, just a recognition of shared humanity. May you feel at ease. May you sleep without fear. May you be free from suffering. Loving kindness opens the channel of the heart. It doesn't erase pain. It changes how you hold it. You begin to see that even your rest affects others, that a peaceful heart sleeps not only better, but lighter. It doesn't cling, it doesn't resent, it softens. The second quality is compassion. This is the wish to be free from suffering, not just for yourself, but for all. While loving kindness says, "May you be happy," compassion says, "May your pain ease." It's rooted in connection, in the courage to feel. Before sleep, this means turning toward what still hurts, not to wallow, but to acknowledge. What were you avoiding today? What sadness did you silence? Who do you know that's hurting, even if they never said it? Compassion doesn't demand you solve anything. It simply asks you not to look away. You don't need to fix the world in your mind. You only need to see it clearly and respond with care. To say gently, "I see this pain. May it ease. For me, for you, for all beings." This touches something deep. It allows the protective armor to drop. The kind you've worn all day without knowing it. The kind that keeps you on guard, even while lying down. Compassion breaks through that. It tells the heart it's okay to feel, you're allowed to care, and you don't have to carry it all alone. As that message settles, sleep becomes safer, because the body no longer needs to defend. The nervous system receives a signal that it can let go. The third quality is empathetic joy. This one is often overlooked, but it is just as powerful. It's the ability to celebrate without comparison, to feel glad for others' happiness, their success, their ease, without needing it to be your own. At night, this means releasing the subtle competition that often goes unspoken, the tension from scrolling through images of other people's lives, the pressure of measuring your worth against someone else's, the tightness of not enough. Empathetic joy trains the mind to say, "I'm glad you are well. I'm happy you're thriving. I rejoice in your joy." This frees the mind from envy, from scarcity, from that never-ending loop of, "I should be further ahead." The more you practice this, the more your rest is not disturbed by craving. You don't dream of what's missing. You sleep in what's here. Empathetic joy also means rejoicing in your own joy without guilt. Acknowledge the good, the breath that flowed easier today, the moment you smiled, the fact that you're here, practicing, even if it's hard. That matters. Let the heart feel it. This quality infuses the night with a sense of quiet satisfaction, not from achieving, but from being, from seeing the beauty in ordinary things. The final quality is equanimity. This is the deep stability of mind that sees clearly without being shaken. It is not cold detachment, it is presence without bias. It is a mind that doesn't cling to pleasure or resist pain. It knows that all things rise and fall, and it trusts that truth. Before sleep, equanimity becomes a gentle letting go of control. The plans that didn't work out, the words that didn't land right, the outcomes you didn't get to shape. Equanimity says, "This too is part of the path. May I meet it with balance." This isn't resignation, it's clarity, the kind that allows you to release the need for certainty, the kind that lets the body stop bracing for what might go wrong. You begin to rest not because everything is perfect, but because you're no longer resisting what is. Equanimity also protects the heart. It keeps compassion from becoming burnout, loving kindness from becoming attachment, joy from becoming craving. It holds all the other immeasurables in balance, a quiet anchor in the moving sea of the mind. When all four are practiced together, kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity, the heart becomes vast, not sentimental, not performative, vast like the ocean, able to hold whatever comes and let it pass. This internal cleansing is subtle. You may not notice it all at once, but each night you practice, something clears. A layer lifts, a contraction loosens. You carry less. And that lightness affects not just your sleep, but your entire life. These four immeasurables are called boundless for a reason. They expand you. They open what was closed. They make space where the mind once tightened. They soften the boundary between self and other, between thought and presence, between wakefulness and deep, healing rest. And they do it quietly. No effort, no performance, just the willingness to feel, to offer, to release. So tonight, don't fight with your thoughts. Don't wrestle with memory. Don't try to force peace. Sit, lie down, or close your eyes and offer these qualities inward. May I be safe. May others be free. May we all rest in ease. May joy grow where pain once lived. May I hold this moment with balance. There's nothing you need to achieve, no emotion you need to feel. The power is in the offering. The practice is in the return. Let this be your final act before sleep, a quiet cleansing, a soft alignment, a silent kindness that echoes into the places words never reach. When you wake tomorrow, the world may still be what it is, but your heart will be lighter, your mind will be steadier, and something inside will know, I didn't carry it all with me, I let it go. This is the practice, this is the purification, this is peace. When the heart softens, the mind follows. The four immeasurables make space inside you, the kind that doesn't ask for more or cling to less. With a heart open to kindness and a mind quieted by presence, you begin to feel what truly lies beneath all the effort and identity that still tries to hold on. Not out of malice, but out of fear. Fear of loss, fear of change, fear of what might come if you loosen your grip. This fear, quiet as it may be, is often what keeps the body tense at night. It's the thread beneath restlessness, the hidden voice that says, what if I lose what I have? Or what if I'm not enough without all of it? These thoughts don't always come loudly. Sometimes they settle under the surface unspoken, unnamed. But they affect how you sleep, how you breathe, and how you let go. The Buddha offered a set of reflections to meet this part of the mind directly, not to scare it into surrender, but to show it the truth it already knows deep down. These are called the 5 remembrances. They are not meant to bring sadness or fear. They are reminders not of despair, but of freedom. Because once you see clearly what is not in your control, you stop trying to control it. You stop fighting reality, and in that stopping, something peaceful begins to grow. The first remembrance is that I am of the nature to grow old. Age is not something we avoid, it's something we live through. The skin changes, the muscles weaken. The body, which we often use to define ourselves, begins to shift in ways we cannot stop. Acknowledging this truth does not take away from life, it deepens it. When you go to bed knowing that this body is not forever, you hold it differently. With more care, more presence, less vanity. You are not trying to prove anything. You are resting simply in what is. The second remembrance is that I am of the nature to become ill. Health is not permanent. No matter how strong you are today, the body is vulnerable. This reflection is not meant to create fear, but to grow humility. When you realize that your strength is temporary, you stop pretending to be invincible. You stop demanding perfection from the body. You start listening more. You begin to understand that sleep, too, is not earned through force, but given through trust. Trust in this fragile body that has carried you so far. The third remembrance is that I am of the nature to die. Death is not an idea, not an event for later. It is part of your nature. This reflection can strike deeply. It touches the core of what the ego tries to avoid, but it is not meant to bring sorrow. It brings urgency, not for panic, but for presence. Knowing that you will die helps you stop wasting time pretending otherwise. You begin to see what really matters. What you carry to bed becomes lighter because you stop trying to control a future that no one can promise. The fourth remembrance is that everything I love and everyone I love are of the nature to change. They will grow old, fall ill, and die. This includes the people closest to you, your possessions, your status, and even the beliefs you once held tightly. This truth can be difficult, but it leads to a kind of love that is free from possession. You stop holding people as if they belong to you. You stop fearing change and instead begin to love more fully because you understand how precious and temporary everything really is. The fifth remembrance brings it all home. My actions are my only true belongings. I cannot escape the consequences of what I do. They are the ground I stand on. This is the mirror. In the end, what you have done, how you lived, how you treated others, how you treated yourself is what shapes your mind, your dreams, your karma. At night, when all the noise fades, this truth becomes clear. The clothes, the opinions, the achievements, all of it fades. But the way you showed up today, that remains. These five are not just words, they are tools. They strip away the parts of the ego that hold on out of fear. And when that gripping loosens, what's left is something quiet, not empty in a hollow way. Empty in a spacious way, where rest is not disturbed by clinging to the illusion of control. Practicing these reflections before bed is not a ritual of pessimism. It is a practice of clarity. You don't repeat them to scare yourself. You repeat them to return to reality. And in doing so, you shed the layers that prevent real rest. The mind that resists death also resists sleep. It keeps you alert, as if letting go for the night is a kind of dying. In a way, it is. The self dissolves in sleep. Identity fades. Time disappears. And this is what the ego cannot accept easily. But when you remind yourself gently, compassionately, that everything is impermanent, including you, then the grip softens. There is nothing left to defend. These remembrances help dismantle the illusion of being separate. When you accept your nature to age, fall ill, and die, you begin to see that everyone shares this nature. The lines between you and others blur. That sense of being alone in your struggles starts to fade. There's a kind of peace in knowing that everyone is walking the same path, that nothing you're afraid of is yours alone. Sleep then becomes something different, not a battle to quiet the mind, but a surrender to truth. You go to bed not chasing rest, but laying down the burdens that prevent it. The burden of needing to prove yourself, the burden of clinging to outcomes, the burden of holding tightly to people and things that were never truly in your control. This changes how you breathe at night, how you settle into your mattress, how you hold your body. You are no longer tensing against time. You are no longer trapped in resistance. Instead, you're entering the night with awareness, not of your to-do list, not of your regrets, but of what's real. That aging cannot be avoided. That illness comes with being alive. That death is not separate from life. That love means change, and that actions matter more than identity. There is a strange relief in accepting this, like removing armor you didn't know you were wearing. You start to feel the difference between self and story, between the body and the thoughts about the body, between what changes and what watches the change. This watcher, the awareness that ceases, not disturbed by impermanence. It simply notices, it bears witness, And when you sleep with that awareness intact, even partially, something begins to heal. Not on the surface, but in the deep layers. The part of you that's been exhausted by holding up the weight of a permanent self starts to rest, truly rest. Reciting the 5 remembrances aloud or silently before bed is a form of release. You speak them not to recite doctrine, but to remind the mind that it doesn't need to keep pretending. You are not invincible. You are not separate, and you don't have to keep trying to be in control. With each remembrance, the ego softens, and what rises in its place is tenderness, compassion for yourself, gratitude for the breath that's still here, reverence for the people in your life not as possessions, but as passing blessings. This makes space for honesty, for real connection, for a kind of sleep that doesn't hide from the truth but rests inside it. The pillow becomes a place of presence, the bed a space of practice, not performance practice, where the lines between waking and wisdom begin to fade. The truth is, sleep and death are not so different. Both require letting go, both require trust, and both reveal what you've been holding on to. The 5 remembrances are not about rejecting the world. They are about seeing it as it is. And when you see clearly, you stop needing so much. You stop needing to be right, or praised, or safe from all change. You become someone who can rest even when life is uncertain. And this is what makes sleep peaceful. Not the perfect room, not the perfect thoughts, but the willingness to be with things as they are, aging, changing, dying, loving, acting, letting go. This is the practice. Simple, direct, powerful. Say the words slowly. Feel them. Don't resist them. Let the truth in. Let the stories fall. Let the grip loosen. Let the self dissolve just enough to sleep in freedom. The mind begins to settle. The body has softened. You've released the weight of identity, loosened the grip of control, and gently welcomed the truths most people run from. In doing so, you've prepared the ground not just for better sleep, but for something even deeper, a meeting with transition itself. Every night, without fail, something ends, something dissolves. The story of me begins to blur, thoughts lose their edges, the senses dim, awareness detaches from the waking world. Most people never notice it. They slip past it, unconscious. But this space, this in-between, was more than just the gap between being awake and being asleep. In Tibetan teachings, it is sacred. It is a bardo. Bardo means in-between state. It refers to any transitionary passage between one experience and another. The most well-known is the bardo between death and rebirth. But that is only one kind. According to the Tibetan Book of the Dead and other Vajrayana texts, there are many bardos, and one of them happens every single night, the moment before sleep, the moment the self dissolves and another form of experience takes over. This bardo is a training ground. It mirrors death in structure, but without finality, and that makes it a powerful place to wake up. Sleep is not simply rest, it is movement through subtle states. Just as death is not the end, but a shift into new conditions, sleep too is a process of change. The transition from waking to dreaming, from dreaming to deep sleep, from sleep to waking again, each is a movement through a threshold, and each threshold reveals something about the nature of mind. The Tibetan view teaches that the mind is always in motion, always cycling through clarity and confusion, through grasping and letting go. The bardos are moments where the habitual patterns pause just enough for transformation to become possible. These are openings, and sleep is full of them. The moment you lie down and begin to fall asleep is similar to the moment of death. Your thoughts slow, your awareness begins to withdraw from the senses, the feeling of solidity begins to shift. But if you are not mindful, you miss this. The process becomes mechanical. You drift, you fade, and awareness is lost. But when practiced with attention, This nightly bardo becomes a teaching. It allows you to observe what it means to let go, to watch how the mind resists it, to feel the fear, the grasping, the pull to stay identified. This is the same pattern that arises at the time of death, just in softer form. And by training here through sleep, you prepare for the greater letting go that will come one day. This is not meant to create anxiety. It is offered as a doorway to freedom, because when you begin to see that death and sleep share the same structure, you stop fearing both. You stop turning away. And when fear dissolves, awareness stays. And when awareness stays, liberation becomes possible. The bardo before sleep is called the Chikai bardo, by some teachers the moment where consciousness detaches from ordinary perception. It is subtle, a shift, not a break. If the mind is trained to remain aware as the body sleeps, it begins to see this shift, the loss of sensory input, the floating quality of thought, the gradual slide into something else. You can begin to train for this by observing the process of falling asleep, not fighting it, not trying to force lucidity, but watching, letting go without losing attention, allowing the thoughts to soften while the awareness remains. This is difficult at first. The mind wants to either hold on tightly or collapse, but with practice, a balance emerges. You learn to rest in a space that is neither sleep nor waking, a transitional field. In Tibetan terms, this is the opportunity. This is the bardo. In that moment, the mind becomes more subtle. Gross thoughts fall away. The sense of I starts to dissolve. And if you can meet that with awareness, something profound opens. The self is no longer defined by its usual roles. You're not thinking in words. You're not bound by logic. You're simply present with change itself. This trains a kind of death readiness, not in a morbid way, but in the most compassionate way. To sleep consciously is to die consciously. And to die consciously, even in small ways, is to live without clinging. The teachings describe the bardos as having great potential. In the waking world, our habits are strong. We react quickly. We're caught in momentum. But in transitional states, the patterns loosen. There's a gap. And in that gap, you can plant new seeds. You can interrupt old tendencies. You can choose a different response. Before sleep, this might mean observing the urge to ruminate and not following it. It might mean noticing the fear of stillness and staying anyway. It might mean seeing the need to be in control and releasing it gently. This builds a kind of flexibility in the mind, a willingness to stay open, even in uncertainty. And that is exactly what is needed at the time of death, when the familiar disappears, when the mind enters unfamiliar terrain. The more you practice recognizing these micro-transitions, the more skilled you become at navigating them. You start to see that nothing in experience is permanent, that all states arise, shift, and fall away. This includes the states of sleep, dream, deep, rest, waking again. All are impermanent, all are part of the same cycle. What matters is not controlling these cycles, it's how you meet them, with grasping or with clarity, with fear or with presence. This is why the Bardo teachings are not just about death. They are about living well now. They are about learning to trust the movement of life, the process of letting go, the grace of not knowing. You can apply this in every sleep cycle. As you lie down, bring attention to the breath not as a technique, but as a tether. Let the breath guide you as awareness begins to float. Don't hold it too tightly. Don't fall into dullness. Rest gently in between. As you feel sleep coming, allow yourself to observe it. Watch the edge. Watch how the sense of self starts to thin out. Let the ego rest. Let the identity fade. If thoughts come, let them come and go. You are not trying to analyze. You are simply watching the process of falling asleep as if it were a sacred event, because it is. Over time, you'll begin to notice patterns, how certain emotions arise before sleep, how fear or resistance shows up, how letting go doesn't happen all at once, but in stages. This becomes your map, your nightly practice. Some traditions teach that falling asleep with awareness is one of the highest meditations because it prepares the mind for what truly matters. The final bardo, the one none of us will avoid. But it also prepares you for daily life. When you wake from sleep with more awareness, you step into the day with a different presence. The decisions you make are less reactive. The way you listen changes. The way you hold your experience changes. This is the gift of bardo training. You are practicing for death, yes, but more than that, you are practicing for life, for every moment of transition, every conversation that ends, every identity that fades, every plan that doesn't work out. These are all bardos, all moments of loss, all invitations to see that what you are is not fixed. And that insight brings freedom. The body will sleep, the mind will wander, but awareness, once trained, begins to stay. It becomes your refuge, your anchor in transition, not as control but as openness, as grace. You don't have to perfect this. You don't have to succeed every night. Even one moment of awareness in the bardo before sleep plants a seed, a memory in the mind, a familiarity that will return when it's needed. So when you lie down tonight, treat the transition with reverence, not with fear, not with control, but with deep respect. You are practicing for the greatest truth. You are learning to release what was never really yours to begin with. And as you let go, you are not losing yourself. You are returning to something more spacious, something more honest, something that was always there, beneath the noise. Let sleep carry you. Let the bardo teach you. Let awareness stay. This is not the end. This is another beginning. Each night you cross a threshold, awareness softens, identity blurs. The stories you carry begin to loosen their grip. You've practiced letting go of control. You've explored the mind's transitions through bardos. You've seen how sleep mirrors the greatest of all changes. But there is one part of experience that remains constantly present, always available as an anchor: the body. While the mind spins in thoughts, the body waits. It doesn't argue, it doesn't demand answers. It speaks quietly through sensation, through tension, through breath. And most of the time, it is ignored. When sleep doesn't come, the reason often appears to be mental: stress, overthinking, restlessness. But what allows those mental patterns to grow wild is disconnection from the body. The thoughts go unchecked because awareness is floating without anchor. In early Buddhist practice, the Buddha offered a clear way to return: Kayanu contemplation of the body. This isn't about judging the body. It's about knowing it, not as an idea, but as living experience. Through direct, sustained observation of the body as it is, the mind begins to quiet. The need to solve, predict, or plan begins to fade. Not because the thoughts are pushed away, but because they no longer take center stage. Kayanupassana is not a complex technique. It is the act of being with your body fully, exactly as it is, with complete attention. And this attention is not focused on form or appearance. It is grounded in feeling touch, pressure, movement, and stillness. Through this awareness, the illusion of control slowly dissolves. You begin to understand that peace doesn't arrive by managing your mind, but by resting in the direct experience of now. Body scanning, as taught in Vipassana traditions, is one way to enter this contemplation. It involves moving attention slowly, part by part, through the body. Not to find what's wrong, but to simply feel what is there. Every part is included, nothing is left out. And through this inclusive attention, something powerful happens. Fragmentation dissolves. Normally, the mind sees the body in pieces: my sore back, my tired legs, my aching head. But when you practice Kayanupassana, these pieces start to merge. You begin to experience the body not as parts, but as a continuous field of sensation. This field is always changing, rising and falling, tingling and releasing, warm and cool. And observing this change directly trains the mind in the truth of impermanence. As the mind sees this clearly, its restlessness begins to calm. Thoughts feed on resistance. When you resist tension in the body, the mind tightens. When you avoid discomfort, the thoughts multiply. But when you bring awareness to these sensations without trying to change them, they begin to move on their own. The body knows how to release. It only needs space. Body scanning works not by removing thoughts, but by shifting attention to what is more stable: the breath, the pulse, the heaviness of the limbs. Each time you place attention gently on a part of the body, you reduce identification with the thinking self. You become the observer, not the thinker. And this small shift is enough to create distance from mental noise. Kayanupassana also teaches you to stay with sensation, even when it's unpleasant. When awareness touches a part of the body that feels tight, heavy, or sore, the usual instinct is to pull away. But in this practice, you do the opposite. You stay, you observe, you feel. And what you begin to learn is that discomfort changes. Nothing stays fixed. A sharp pain becomes a dull throb. A heaviness becomes warmth. A tightness releases. You are not fixing anything. You are witnessing the body return to balance in its own way. This teaches trust. It also teaches patience. Patience is not passive. It is the willingness to remain present with what is, without forcing a different experience. And this is exactly what allows the body to rest deeply, because the nervous system feels safe when it is seen. When attention is brought to the body without judgment, the signals of stress begin to slow. This also affects how you fall asleep. When scanning the body, sleep often arrives without warning, not because you forced it, but because the mind became aligned with the rhythms of the body. The brain no longer searches for resolution. It follows the breath, it follows the feeling, and in that following, it lets go. Even when sleep doesn't come right away, this practice creates rest, deep rest, the kind that nourishes the body even in stillness, because presence, not unconsciousness, is what heals. When the mind is present in the body, even wakefulness becomes restorative. Another benefit of Kayanupassana is the development of sensitivity. Over time, you begin to feel more, not in an overwhelming way, but in a clear way. You notice small tensions before they grow. You sense fatigue before it turns into collapse. This sensitivity allows you to respond with care, to meet your needs before they turn into suffering. You also become more attuned to how the body reacts to thought. A stressful memory creates tightness in the chest. A worry about tomorrow creates pressure in the forehead. An old resentment triggers the jaw to clench. When seen clearly, these reactions become teachers. They show you the mind-body link, not as theory, but as lived truth. In this way, Kayanupassana becomes more than a sleep practice. It becomes a way of living in your body, fully, honestly, with respect. You stop treating the body like a machine. You start treating it like a friend. This relationship shifts your approach to rest. Rest is no longer something you earn, it is something you allow. You begin to feel when your body asks for stillness. You start to respond with kindness instead of avoidance. And this kindness softens everything. The practice also shows you where you're holding emotional residue. Unspoken grief might sit in the throat. Unfelt anger might tighten the fists. Unacknowledged fear might curl in the belly. By scanning slowly, these hidden impressions come to light, not to overwhelm you, but to be met, felt, released. There is no need to analyze. The body doesn't need fixing, it needs presence. Awareness is what clears the residue, not words, not explanations, just being with sensation, fully as it is. This presence is not rigid, it's gentle, it moves with attention, it listens, it follows, and in following, it teaches you how to rest without abandoning yourself. As you move through the body, scanning the toes, the feet, the ankles, the calves, the knees, you start to feel more whole. Each part is included, each part is honored, and that inclusion brings peace. You don't need a goal, you don't need a result. The practice is the result. The practice is the resting. Even the breath becomes more natural. As awareness touches each area of the body, the breath adjusts. It deepens, it softens, without force, without instruction. Because the breath responds to safety, and attention is safety. Over time, Kayanupassana creates a mind that no longer runs from discomfort, that no longer chases thought as a way to escape feeling. It becomes a mind that rests where it is, that trusts the body, that knows presence is enough. This is how the monkey mind quiets, not through effort, but through returning again and again to what's here. The sensation in the fingertips, the movement in the chest, the stillness in the legs. Each moment of awareness is a thread, and together these threads weave calm. This calm is not temporary, it is trained, cultivated, built each night through steady presence. It becomes the default state, not because nothing disturbs you, but because you know how to return. You no longer fear restlessness, you no longer fight the body. You listen, you soften, you stay, and in staying, you sleep, not from exhaustion, but from peace. This is the gift of mindful body contemplation. It's not mystical, it's not abstract, it is grounded in what's real, in what's always been there, waiting for your attention. Tonight, bring your mind home. Let it move through your body like water. No resistance, no judgment, just presence. Let the scan become your path. Let each part of you be seen. Let the stillness grow from the inside. This is not a technique. This is your nature. Let it hold you. Let it carry you into sleep. The mind has traveled inward, through stillness, through sensation, through the body's subtle landscape. Awareness has begun to rest where it belongs. You've trained it to stay, not by force, but by presence. Now the body is at ease. Sleep has come. The mind has let go. But that's not the end. Every cycle of rest leads to return. What falls must rise. What dissolves must reform. And so the question is not just how you fall asleep, but how you wake. In the quiet that follows deep rest, in the silence after stillness, something else emerges. The return of consciousness, the renewal of choice, the opportunity to begin again. In Buddhist practice, waking up is never treated as routine. It's never seen as ordinary. The moment the eyes open, the breath returns to rhythm, and awareness begins to stir. There is a powerful opening. This is not just physical awakening, it's spiritual renewal. It is the daily invitation to reset not just the body but karma. Karma is often misunderstood. It's not fate, it's not punishment, it's momentum. It's the energy of intention, repeated thought, and habitual action. It shapes perception. It determines the direction of your speech, your choices, your mind. And each morning, that direction is not fixed. It can shift. The patterns of yesterday don't have to define today. The moment of waking holds a unique power. The mind is soft, the heart is open. The usual defenses have not yet been built, and that's where transformation begins. The first moments of the day matter more than we think. They are the seed from which the entire day grows. If the first thought is reactive, the day tends to follow that tone. If the first breath is rushed, the rhythm of the day often becomes hurried. But when the first experience is mindful, when attention is brought to the body, to the breath, to intention, something stabilizes. A foundation is created. And from that foundation, clarity can grow. In Tibetan and Theravada traditions alike, there are practices specifically designed for waking, not elaborate rituals, but simple gestures of presence. The first is awareness of breath. Before movement, before thought, awareness rests in the inhale and exhale. This is not forced breathing. It is simply noticing. The breath is the bridge between sleep and wakefulness. By anchoring attention here, you give the mind a calm path back into the world. Alongside the breath, awareness of posture becomes important. The way you rise from bed reflects the way you meet the world. A hurried, collapsing movement brings fragmentation. A gentle, intentional rising brings steadiness. As you sit up or stand, feel the contact with the ground. Let the body's return to verticality be an act of presence. Then comes the first thought. In many lineages, practitioners are encouraged to set an intention immediately after waking. This is not about planning or goal setting, it's about karma. What energy do you want to cultivate today? What quality of heart will guide your actions? The intention can be silent, a phrase, a word, a vow. It plants a seed, one that quietly shapes every interaction to come. Waking as renewal also means recognizing that you are not the same person who went to sleep. Something has changed. The body has shifted. The mind has softened. The stories you carried before sleep are no longer fresh, and this gives you space. You don't have to resume the same narrative. You don't have to continue yesterday's identity. There is no rule that says you must pick up the same fears, regrets, or assumptions. Each morning offers the chance to choose differently. That is freedom. In Mahayana texts, there is the teaching of beginner's mind, to meet each moment as new, not because it is unfamiliar, but because it is alive. This applies especially to mornings. You are returning to a world you know, but you can meet it with new perception. This requires awareness. It requires restraint from immediately indulging old thought patterns. Instead of reaching for distraction, bring attention inward. Feel the body. Sense the breath. Let the mind arrive slowly. This patience changes the day's momentum. Instead of being pulled by urgency, you begin with steadiness. The nervous system follows. The heart rate slows. The breath deepens. Hormonal rhythms stabilize. And all of this supports clarity. As you go about your first actions, washing, stretching, preparing food, these too become opportunities for mindful return. In Zen and early Buddhist traditions, daily life is practice. Waking is not separate from the path, it is the path. Each movement, each breath, each step holds the chance to realign. One of the most transformative aspects of seeing wakefulness as spiritual renewal is that it breaks the illusion of permanence. You see clearly that nothing from the day before was fixed. Even thoughts you believed were certain now feel distant. That anxiety that consumed you yesterday morning may be completely gone. That mood that seemed unshakable has already passed. This teaches you not to trust all passing states. It teaches you to trust what holds them, instead awareness itself. From this insight grows compassion. When you know how much you change in one night, you begin to allow others the same freedom. You stop holding people to versions of themselves they've outgrown. You stop expecting permanence in a world built on change. And this releases tension not only within you, but in your relationships. This renewal also invites accountability. If karma is shaped by intention and action, then each day is a chance to steer that direction. You can wake and choose to act from clarity, from kindness, from restraint, from generosity. This doesn't require perfection. It requires willingness to pause, to see, to respond wisely. There are practices that support this. Simple things. Before leaving your bed, take 3 mindful breaths. Place a hand on the chest. Feel the rise and fall. Offer a quiet phrase. Today, I walk with awareness. Or, today, may my actions bring peace. This is not wishful thinking. It is energetic commitment. It sets the tone, and when done consistently, it reshapes the nervous system. Walking becomes different. Speech becomes slower. Reactions are less sharp. Because the mind was prepared. It didn't rush. It didn't forget its power to choose. Even if the day unfolds with challenge, the morning practice remains a refuge. You carry it with you, a thread of stillness in a noisy world. Another important aspect of spiritual renewal is humility. The understanding that you woke not because you deserve it, but because conditions allowed it. Breath returned, mind returned. This fosters gratitude not as obligation, but as recognition. Many did not wake today. Many suffer in ways you will not know. And here you are, alive, breathing, thinking, feeling. That truth alone is a doorway to reverence. From that reverence, the mind becomes soft, the heart becomes open, and from this softness, right action is more likely to follow. That is how karma shifts, not through force, but through alignment. This also challenges the idea that awakening is a single event. In truth, awakening happens again and again. Every moment you choose presence, you wake up. Every moment you return to breath, you wake up. Every time you stop reacting and instead respond with care, you wake up. And each morning, that process begins anew. This is not something you achieve, it's something you remember. The renewal is already there. The clarity is not far, it's just waiting to be noticed. Some traditions describe the mind as a clear mirror. Overnight, it gathers dust, thoughts, emotions, sensory impressions. But the mirror itself is unchanged. Waking is the act of wiping the surface, not to create clarity but to reveal it. You can make this part of your morning, before speaking, before reaching for a device. Sit quietly, even for 1 minute. Let the dust settle. Let the mirror show you what's true. This is not discipline, it is devotion to your own clarity, to your own peace. Over time, this practice builds resilience, because even when the day becomes difficult, you remember where you started. You remember what it feels like to begin in presence, and that memory brings you back. It also builds continuity. Sleep is no longer the end of one day and the beginning of another. It becomes part of a rhythm, inhale and exhale, death and rebirth, dissolution and return. And when seen this way, each morning becomes sacred, not because of what you do, but because of how you arrive, mindful, clear, free. Let that be your practice. To wake, not as a task, but as a blessing. To rise, not with rush, but with grace. To speak, not with noise, but with purpose. To move, not with habit, but with awareness. This is renewal. This is how you meet the world again and again, not as the same person, but as someone always beginning. Let that beginning be filled with intention. Let your day unfold from clarity, not confusion. Let your mind rest in truth, not story. And let your life, one morning at a time, become a path of quiet awakening. As the body rises with new breath and the mind returns with clarity, a gentle strength begins to form. The intention you set in the first waking moment begins to shape the path ahead. But even with presence, even with sincerity, the world can pull. Its noise, its demands, its unpredictability, capable of unraveling the calm you cultivated. To carry stillness forward, you need something that stays with you even when thoughts waver, something that moves with breath, cuts through noise, and steadies the nervous system from within. That something is sound, not just any sound, sacred sound. In Buddhist practice, mantras have long been used not only as tools for concentration, but as medicine for the heart, mind, and body. These are not just words to be repeated, they are intentional vibrations. When spoken or chanted with awareness, they carry the power to transform internal states. The vibrations do not only stay in the voice. They travel through the nervous system, touching breath, heart rate, muscular tension, and even the brain's chemical balance. The repetition of sacred phrases can activate the parasympathetic nervous system. This is the part of your body that tells you it's safe to rest, digest, and repair. It slows the heart, lowers blood pressure, calms the breath. When activated, the body exits survival mode and re-enters equilibrium. It's this shift that supports sleep, emotional healing, and overall well-being. Mantras are designed to bring the mind into resonance with truth. In Buddhism, they are used not as magical spells, but as tools of alignment. They reflect specific qualities of the awakened mind: compassion, clarity, fearlessness, wisdom. When these sounds are repeated, the body responds. It entrains to their rhythm. It follows their tone. The mind stops grasping, thought slows, the nervous system quiets, and stillness becomes more accessible. There is scientific backing to this process. Chanting, especially with prolonged vowels and nasal resonance, stimulates the vagus nerve. This nerve links the brain to many internal organs and is deeply involved in regulating rest and recovery. When the vagus nerve is stimulated gently and repeatedly through vocal vibration, stress hormones decrease. Melatonin, the hormone associated with sleep, increases, cortisol lowers, heart rate variability improves. All of this supports a deeper and more stable internal state. But not all mantras are the same. Different syllables carry different effects. In Buddhist traditions, especially those practiced in Tibet, India, and parts of Southeast Asia, specific mantras are used at night, not just for devotion but for deep calming. Their syllables are chosen for more than meaning, they are chosen for sound. One of the most well-known is the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum. This mantra invokes the qualities of compassion and wisdom embodied by Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of boundless love. The sound Om is said to purify pride and ego. Ma softens jealousy. Ni clears desire. Pad releases ignorance. Mi cuts through greed. And Hum dissolves hatred. Repeating this mantra with steady breath trains the body in a sequence of release. Each syllable, when spoken with intention, signals safety to the nervous system. Another deeply soothing mantra is Tayata Om Bekanze. Bekanze Maha Bekanze Radza Samudgate Soha. This is the medicine Buddha mantra. Its tone and rhythm are often slower, deeper, more grounding. The words are meant to bring healing not only physically but emotionally. When chanted before bed, it brings a sense of inner support. The vibration moves through the chest, down into the belly, where emotional tension often hides. It encourages softening, not just in the body, but in the inner resistance we carry unknowingly. Chanting, even silently, regulates breath. It aligns the inhale and exhale. The mind becomes interested in the sound, and distractions lose power. This makes mantras effective not just as relaxation tools, but as anchors for mindfulness. When a mantra is repeated before sleep, it replaces the usual internal chatter, the self-narratives, the mental lists, the regrets. Instead of following those, the mind is given something else to rest in, something rhythmic, something neutral, something healing. Some people worry about pronunciation. In Buddhist teaching, perfect enunciation is not the priority. Sincerity is. It is the intention behind the sound that gives it force. The mind listens to tone more than perfection. A softly whispered mantra with presence has more power than a loud chant done mechanically. Let the sound move through you. Let the breath shape it. Let your attention follow it like a thread through the dark. There are also bija mantra seed syllables. These are often one-sound expressions of specific energies. The syllable hum represents unwavering presence. Ah opens the heart. Om settles the crown and centers thought. These syllables can be used on their own, repeated slowly with the breath. One sound on the inhale, one on the exhale. This repetition gently guides the brain into alpha and theta states levels of consciousness associated with creativity, meditation, and deep rest. Using mantras in the evening creates a transition, a soft boundary between activity and surrender, between noise and stillness. Just as brushing your teeth cleans the body, mantras cleanse the subtle energy field. They wash away the residue of conversation, conflict, distraction, and doubt. You don't need to understand all their meanings. You only need to feel their vibration. Let them do their work without interference. Some people find it helpful to chant aloud for a few minutes, then continue silently as they lie down. The shift from sound to inner repetition mirrors the body's own descent into sleep. First, the senses are active, then they soften, then they disappear. If the mantra continues silently, it often accompanies you across that threshold. It becomes the last thought, the final rhythm, and the mind follows. This practice also carries over into dreams. A mantra held at the moment of falling asleep often reappears in the dream state. This has been used in certain Tibetan dream yoga practices to maintain lucidity, to ground awareness even when the body rests. The sound becomes a bridge link between conscious and subconscious layers. Even if you don't remember dreaming, the presence of mantra shapes the quality of sleep. It makes it more integrated, more peaceful, less fragmented. You can also use mala strings of beads to guide the repetition. Each bead marks one recitation. This tactile element engages the body further. The fingers move slowly. The mind stays focused. The act becomes a ritual, a practice of attention, a way to embody stillness. Whether you use a full mantra or a single syllable, consistency matters. Repetition over days, weeks, and months builds strength. The nervous system responds faster, the mind settles sooner. The body begins to associate the sound with rest. Eventually, just hearing or thinking the mantra brings a shift. The conditioned response becomes one of peace. This is not superstition. It is skillful means, tools shaped over centuries, not to mystify, but to soothe, to bring the scattered mind home, to give the body the signal it needs to rest, repair, and renew. It's also a practice of devotion, not to something external, but to presence itself, to truth, to that part of you that longs to be still, to be whole, to be quiet enough to hear the deeper rhythms of life. Let the mantra be your night prayer, your medicine, your return. Choose one that speaks to you. Let it enter slowly, gently, no force. Let it rise with the breath. Let it fall with the breath. Let it echo softly in the mind, and let it carry you into rest not as a sleep technique, but as a path of returning. Returning to safety, to center, to the part of you that never needed fixing, only listening. Let that be the final sound before sleep. Let it soften the edges. Let it dissolve the noise. Let it guide you back, and let that vibration linger long after the voice is silent, long into the night, all the way into stillness. As the final sound of mantra fades, what remains is presence without effort. The nervous system has softened, the body has responded, and the mind begins to feel quieter than it has all day. But even in this stillness, something subtle can persist, a quiet tension, a hidden pressure, not from thought, not from noise, but from identity. A belief that lingers beneath the surface: I am someone who needs to sleep. This identity seems harmless at first. After all, everyone goes to bed with a desire for rest. But the moment this desire becomes entangled with self-image, tension follows. The idea that you must fall asleep, that sleep is something you are supposed to achieve, begins to shape your experience. Suddenly, rest becomes performance. The bed becomes a stage. The one lying down becomes a character called the sleeper, and the need to succeed in that role creates resistance where there should be release. This is where the Buddhist teaching of non-self becomes vital. Anatta, The understanding that there is no fixed, unchanging self is not just a philosophical insight, it is a practical key to freedom. At night, when the mind is fragile and the body is tired, it is often the grasping at identity that blocks rest. The idea that, "I can't sleep," "I'm a bad sleeper," or "I must fall asleep now or tomorrow will be ruined," tightens the mind. It turns rest into a goal and the self into the one responsible for achieving it. Letting go of the self as sleeper means releasing the view that there is a doer behind the process of sleep. In reality, sleep is not something you perform, it is something that happens. Just as breathing occurs without effort, sleep arises from conditions. The body cools, the brain waves shift, the nervous system enters safety. These conditions are not summoned by identity. They unfold naturally when the mind stops interfering. The belief in a solid self, especially at bedtime, can be subtle. It may appear as a voice that says, "I always wake up at this time," or "I need this many hours to function," or "I am someone with insomnia." These stories, even when based on past experiences, become limitations. They shape expectation, and expectation becomes stress. Stress contracts the body. Contraction prevents sleep. To practice non-self at night is not to deny experience. It is to meet it without ownership. If wakefulness is here, it is here. It doesn't belong to you. It doesn't define you. It doesn't mean anything about who you are. It is simply a state. Like clouds passing through an open sky, there is no sleeper who has failed. There is only a changing experience of body and mind. This perspective creates space. Instead of trying to fix the situation, you learn to watch it with curiosity. What is this sensation? What is this thought? What does it feel like when sleep doesn't come right away? You begin to see that the one watching is not the one who is suffering. The watcher is clear, calm, free from identity. Letting go of the self as sleeper also changes how you relate to time. Often, it is the clock that triggers identity. Watching the minutes pass, the mind begins to panic. It's already midnight. I'll never feel rested. I'll be exhausted tomorrow. These thoughts don't arise from the body, they arise from the self-concept. The belief that there is a version of you that must meet a specific standard. But the body doesn't operate through identity. It responds to conditions. And conditions improve when there is less pressure. When attention returns to breath, to sensation, to sound, without a narrative, the nervous system relaxes. Even if sleep does not arrive immediately, rest begins to occur. The muscles soften, the breath slows, cortisol decreases. Healing happens, not because a self achieved it, but because awareness got out of the way. This is not passivity, it is deep wisdom, a surrender of the illusion of control, a willingness to be with what is, without trying to shape it into what should be. And paradoxically, this is the very mindset that makes rest possible. Non-self can also be practiced through language. The way you speak to yourself matters. Saying, "I can't sleep," reinforces identity. Saying, "Wakefulness is here," acknowledges reality without ownership. Saying, "I'm failing again," creates resistance. Saying, "The mind is active right now," creates space. This subtle shift in language reflects a deeper shift in view, from being the experiencer to being the space in which experience arises. The body responds to this shift. When identification drops, the signals of stress begin to fade. Muscles that were bracing unconsciously begin to let go. The breath, no longer monitored, finds its own rhythm. Thoughts, no longer fueled by fear, begin to dissolve. You may find that in these moments of release, sleep comes quietly, not because you reached for it, but because you stopped grasping. And even if it does not come right away, you rest in awareness. You rest in being, not doing. That rest is nourishing. That rest is enough. Practicing non-self at bedtime also helps dismantle long-term sleep anxiety. For those who have struggled with rest over time, the self-concept becomes reinforced. I've never been a good sleeper. My body just doesn't know how. These beliefs become identities, but in the light of non-self, they are seen as patterns, not truths, not permanent. Just thoughts, just memories, just stories. And stories change. Every night is a new opportunity to meet the present without the past, without the layers of who you think you are, to drop into the breath, to sense the body, to see thought arise and fall, and to let go again and again. This is not detachment. It is presence without ownership. It is being with experience, fully, without needing to make it personal, without needing to make it proof of something, without turning it into another reason to struggle. This view also supports deeper compassion. When you stop identifying as the one who suffers, you can meet the suffering itself with kindness. You can place a hand on the heart. You can breathe into tension. You can whisper, "This too belongs, not to you, but to the unfolding nature of life." Sleep becomes less about control and more about relationship, a relationship with change, with impermanence, with the truth that no state, no thought, no feeling is final, that who you are is not fixed, but fluid. And from this fluidity comes peace. You don't need to become anything at night. Not a relaxed person, not a wise person, not even a mindful person. You are simply present, letting go of roles, letting go of outcomes, letting go of the sleeper entirely. And in that letting go, the body responds, the mind rests, awareness stays. This is not a new technique, it is a new way of seeing. A way that says, I am not the one who sleeps. I am the space in which sleep may or may not arise. And that space is already free, already whole, already at peace. When identity fades, the mind becomes still, no longer clinging to the role of the sleeper, no longer trying to manage rest. Awareness can finally remain untouched. In that openness, something interesting begins to happen. The body sleeps, but the mind continues. And in the absence of control, it reveals its deeper layers. It shows the unprocessed. It speaks through symbols. It moves without logic. This movement is what we call dreams. In Buddhist understanding, dreams are not random. They are not meaningless images produced by a tired brain. They are reflections, imprints of the mind's history, a mix of habit, emotion, karma, and unconscious perception. They arise from what has been left unresolved, from what has been deeply felt, or from what is still forming in subtle ways. Karma is not a mystical punishment. It is simply cause and effect. The patterns you reinforce through thought, emotion, and action do not disappear when the day ends. They carry into rest. And the dreaming mind, freed from the usual rules of reality, becomes a mirror. It reflects these causes back in symbolic language. Learning to read this language is not just interesting, it is liberating. The Buddha recognized that dreams can reveal the tendencies of the heart. In several early texts, dreams are taken seriously, not as prophecy, but as guidance. They show what the mind has absorbed, what the body still holds, what the heart has not yet released. When viewed clearly, dreams become part of the path. They become another place to observe the workings of mind. To interpret dreams through Buddhist insight, you begin not with symbols, but with feeling. Every dream carries an emotional tone. That tone is the key. It tells you what state the mind was in at the time of the dream. Was it agitated, afraid, confused, peaceful? The images may vary, but the mood is consistent. That mood is the first thread you follow. Once you've named the feeling, you look for its source, not by analyzing the dream like a puzzle, but by asking gentle questions. What in your day carried the same energy? What in your past has repeated this emotion? What thought or pattern could have given rise to this content? The goal is not to assign fixed meanings, but to understand your relationship to what appeared. For example, If the dream carried anxiety, notice how that same current moves through your waking life. If a particular figure appeared, an old friend, a stranger, a parent, task what they represent in your inner world, not who they are literally, but what they trigger emotionally. Perhaps they reflect a quality you reject or a memory unresolved. Dreams often use people as stand-ins for deeper patterns. This is where karmic insight deepens. In Buddhist teaching, karma leaves traces not just in action, but in the subtle body. These traces, called samkaras or samskaras, are like grooves in the mind. Repeating a reaction deepens the groove. Over time, these grooves form mental tendencies, ways you interpret the world without realizing. Dreams often express these tendencies clearly. You see yourself running, hiding, fighting, longing, falling. These actions mirror inner habits. They reveal the grooves you've carved. Noticing these patterns is not about blame. It's about recognition. When you see how the dream echoes your habitual mind state, you become more free. You stop believing every thought. You stop assuming the dream is separate from your waking life. You begin to see both as arising from the same causes. Some dreams may feel random. Others may feel charged with meaning. Both are useful. In dreams that feel significant, you can ask, what aspect of myself is being shown here? Where do I feel resistance? Where do I feel release? If the dream felt liberating, what quality was present that allowed that? If the dream felt disturbing, what attachment was threatened? This process is not mental dissection, it is mindfulness in a different form. A soft awareness turned toward the inner world, a willingness to meet whatever arises, even if it doesn't make sense at first. Certain dreams come in cycles. The same scenario, the same challenge, repeating in different forms. These are especially valuable. They point to unresolved karmic residue, something in the mind that wants to be seen, not to punish you, but to offer another chance for release. Meeting these dreams with compassion changes the pattern. Awareness heals, not by changing the dream, but by changing how you relate to it. Keeping a dream journal can support this process, not to collect stories, but to observe tendencies. Write down the dream upon waking, before the mind edits or forgets. Include the feeling, the mood, the body's reaction. Over time, you'll notice what returns: the people, the places, the actions, and more importantly, the emotional patterns behind them. From this, you learn where your karma is strongest, where you are still grasping, where you are still avoiding, where forgiveness is needed, or courage, or letting go. Some dreams are vivid, others are vague. Some are chaotic, others are clear. Clarity in the dream may reflect clarity in the mind. Confusion may reflect unresolved conflict. Even nightmares have a place. They often carry energy that has been pushed down, fear that was never given voice. The appearance of fear in dreams is not failure. It is an invitation to meet the mind where it hides. Dreams can also be influenced by the final thoughts before sleep. This is why pre-sleep practice matters. If you enter sleep with agitation, that energy continues. If you enter with mindfulness, with mantra, with compassion, the mind carries those seeds into rest. This is not about control, but cultivation. Just as a farmer plants certain crops, you plant intentions. The dream is the field where they grow. In some Buddhist traditions, particularly Tibetan, dreams are used as preparation for death, because both are transitions. Both involve the dissolution of identity, the letting go of form, the movement into subtle experience. Dreams show how the mind behaves when the usual structure disappears. This insight is powerful. It teaches you how to let go while still present, how to stay aware even when clarity fades. Lucid dreaming, while not essential, can help deepen this understanding. Becoming aware inside the dream shows you directly that the dream is mind-created. that the figures, the landscape, the story are all projections. This realization, even once, can change how you view your waking thoughts. You begin to question their solidity, their truth, their permanence. But even without lucidity, dreams teach. They show you what the conscious mind avoids. They offer images when words are not enough. They bypass the rational and speak in metaphor. And metaphor, when met with openness, speaks truth. You may not understand every dream. That's not the goal. The goal is relationship, presence, curiosity. Let each dream be a message from the deeper mind. Let it speak. Let it echo. Let it show you who you've been and who you might become. Use the teachings to support interpretation. Recall the three poisons: greed, hatred, and delusion. See how they appear in your sleep, not as sins, but as habits. Recall the qualities of the awakened mind: generosity, compassion, clarity. See where they shine through, even in subtle ways. Let your dreams become part of your path. Let them guide your attention. Let them soften your self-concepts. Let them reveal the karmic echoes you've ignored. And in the morning, don't rush past them. Hold them gently. Ask what they touched, what they stirred, what they offered. Even a brief reflection can plant insight. Then let the dream go. You are not the dream, but the dream can help you remember who you are without the roles, without the masks, without the noise. Let it be a teacher. Let it remind you, nothing arises without cause, and nothing arises without meaning. Your sleeping mind is still speaking. You only need to listen. The inner world never sleeps. Even when the body rests, the mind continues to echo its stories through dreams. You've seen how those echoes reveal karma, how they expose patterns and offer insight. But mind is not isolated. It doesn't float in space untouched. It is shaped continuously by contact by what is seen, touched, and sensed. What surrounds you matters. The space you rest in becomes part of your practice, whether you realize it or not. The mind responds to the environment without needing permission. A cluttered room can stir tension even if you're not looking directly at it. A dark, heavy corner can influence the tone of thought. The body picks up subtle signals, and the nervous system adjusts accordingly. This is not philosophy, it is lived experience, which means your sleep space is not neutral. It is either supporting tranquility or disrupting it. In Buddhist teachings, mindfulness is not limited to internal states. It extends to the environment. Awareness of posture, breath, speech, and surroundings are all considered essential. Where you rest, how you treat that space, what it contains, and how it is arranged, these details shape the quality of your sleep and the tone of your practice. Turning your bed into a sacred altar is not about ritual for the sake of beauty. It's about creating conditions for peace. A sacred space is a supportive space. It reminds the body that rest is safe. It signals the mind to release control. It grounds your nightly practice in intention. This begins with the placement of the bed. In traditional Buddhist and Eastern spatial teachings, orientation matters. The head pointing east or north is often recommended. East aligns with the rising sun, symbolizing clarity and renewal. North carries associations with stability and stillness. These orientations may seem symbolic, but the act of choosing a direction brings consciousness to something otherwise passive. It transforms the bed from an object into an intentional container for rest. Lighting also matters. Harsh light confuses the body's circadian rhythm. Warm, dim lighting in the evening signals the brain to slow down. It tells the pineal gland to release melatonin. Candles, soft lamps, or salt lights encourage a more natural descent into sleep. And when combined with silence or gentle sound, the space begins to hold presence. The nervous system picks up on this subtle harmony. It slows, it releases. Color is another element that can shape experience. Cool earth tones, soft whites, and muted natural shades have long been associated with clarity and non-reactivity. Vibrant or sharp colors can stimulate rather than calm. This doesn't mean your space must be devoid of beauty. It means beauty should support calm, not demand attention. Everything in the space communicates something. Excessive objects around the bed often carry emotional weight. A pile of laundry, an unfinished book, a bright screen, all of these speak to the mind in subtle ways. They create mental loops, things undone, thoughts unresolved, sensory input unfiltered. This input becomes part of your mental field even after your eyes are closed. Simplicity is not emptiness, it is clarity. It allows your attention to rest. When your eyes open in the morning or close at night, what you see and sense matters. Let your space reflect stillness. Choose only what calms, only what supports rest. Everything else can live elsewhere. Scent is another layer of spatial mindfulness. The olfactory system is deeply linked to emotion and memory. Certain scents like sandalwood, lavender, or cedar air, traditionally used in Buddhist rituals, not just for atmosphere, but because they speak to the body directly. They guide breath, ground emotion, and help establish ritual space. Diffusing essential oils or lighting natural incense with care and moderation can create a gentle association in the nervous system between scent and rest. Sound also plays a role. Silence is powerful, but not always possible. When it isn't, neutral or calming sounds can act as anchors. A small water fountain, a fan with a soft rhythm, traditional chanting or nature tones played quietly. These sounds do not distract. They guide awareness away from inner noise towards steady external cues. The mind responds not by effort, but by tuning. Textiles in the sleep space should also support comfort without stimulation. Materials that breathe, that hold warmth gently, allow the body to feel safe. Coarse or synthetic fabrics can create low-grade irritation. This is not about luxury, it's about harmony between body and environment. Symbolism has a place as well. A small statue, an image, or an object with meaning can help center the space. It becomes a visual reminder of your intention. In Buddhist practice, images of the Buddha or Bodhisattvas are not worshipped. They are used to reflect qualities of the awakened mind: compassion, wisdom, peace. Placing such an object near your bed not as decoration, but as an anchor can influence the tone of your thoughts before sleep. It offers a focal point for reflection or gratitude, helping you shift from mental activity to presence. Avoid placing mirrors near or opposite the bed. In many traditions, this is discouraged, as mirrors can reflect light and movement, subtly stimulating the mind. They can also reinforce self-image at a time when the goal is to dissolve identity and release into stillness. Electronics, though familiar, often disturb the subtle energy of the space. Screens emit blue light, disrupting sleep hormones. More than that, they carry mental stimulation news, messages, noise. Even when turned off, the presence of a screen near the bed can reinforce the loop of distraction. Creating physical distance from devices at night is not deprivation, it is protection. You are giving your mind a chance to return to natural rhythm. Floor space matters too. A cluttered floor signals overwhelm. It makes movement cautious, fragmented. A clear floor gives the body ease and the mind confidence. When the space around your bed is free from obstacles, the transition between waking and resting becomes smooth. There is nothing to avoid, nothing to navigate, nothing unfinished pressing into awareness. The practice of preparing the sleep space becomes a meditation in itself, not a chore, a form of attention, a way to align the external with the internal. You are saying to your body and mind, rest is sacred. Stillness is honored here. There is room to let go. You may begin this preparation with a short pause. Adjust the pillow with awareness. Smooth the blanket with intention. Sit at the edge of the bed and take 3 breaths. Acknowledge the space as a place of peace. You don't need to speak it aloud. Let your actions carry the message. This kind of care accumulates. Over time, the body learns. It remembers the feeling of this environment. The cues become familiar. The mind, sensing safety, begins to release earlier. The transition into rest becomes not abrupt, but gradual and welcome. The goal is not perfection, it is relationship. You are relating to your space as part of your practice. You are recognizing that the boundary between inner and outer is fluid, that what surrounds you at night shapes what arises within. You don't need expensive tools. You don't need a complete redesign. What matters is clarity, that the space reflects your values, that it holds your attention without taking it, that it supports surrender, not stimulation. In this way, your bed becomes more than a piece of furniture. It becomes a place of practice, not just where sleep happens, but where letting go begins. Not just where the day ends, but where awareness continues. This is the heart of Buddhist spatial wisdom. It is not superstition. It is not aesthetic. It is mindfulness, extended into form. Matter arranged with care. Space used to support stillness. Let your bed become that place. Let it be where noise dissolves, where rest returns, where presence meets comfort, and where each night begins not as routine, but as ritual. A simple act, a sacred shift. Your body will know. Your mind will follow. And in that stillness, something deeper will rest. Stillness is not created by chance. It begins with choice, each small, each intentional. You've created a space that invites peace. You've removed distractions, softened colors, cleared what doesn't belong. The room now reflects your deeper intention to rest with awareness. But even in the calmest space, the mind may not follow, because what you carry inside still clings, not to the room, but to the day. The body may lie in bed, the lights may be low, the room may be quiet, but the mind can still be entangled in unfinished conversations, old regrets, things left unsaid, work left undone, judgments not yet questioned, and these threads follow you into sleep. The mind tries to hold what it thinks must be held. It loops to preserve what has already passed. This is the invisible weight that prevents real rest. In Buddhist practice, this holding is called attachment. It is not limited to material things. It includes emotions, identities, memories, expectations, even hopes. When these are not released, even in moments of physical rest, the nervous system stays active. Thought remains busy. Sleep becomes shallow. Dreams become disturbed. Waking feels incomplete. This is where renunciation becomes essential, not as rejection, but as release. Renunciation is often misunderstood. It's seen as a turning away from life, from pleasure, from relationships. But in its true form, renunciation is the art of letting go of what no longer serves clarity. It is a gentle stepping back, a soft refusal to carry what isn't needed, a willingness to rest in what's real rather than grasp at what is imagined or lost. At night, renunciation becomes practical. You don't need to leave your life behind. You only need to release the energy you've been entangled with, the interactions that linger, the responsibilities that replay, the image of yourself that you try to protect, prove, or perform. These are the burdens that prevent deep rest. Letting go at night is a skill. It's something that can be practiced, not through force, not through denial, but through small, clear acts of surrender. One of the simplest practices is closing the day with acknowledgement. Before lying down, pause and reflect. What were the moments that still feel unresolved? What part of the day are you still holding in your body or mind? Without trying to solve it, speak to it, internally or softly aloud. Name it. This happened, this was said, This is still here. And then release it. It does not belong to this moment. I can let it rest now. This naming and releasing process helps the mind stop looping. It gives the system permission to rest. You are not erasing the past. You are simply saying, not now. Another practice is the breath as a gesture of letting go. Each exhale is a small surrender. If you focus on the out-breath for several minutes, you'll notice a shift. The body softens, the mind slows. As you breathe out, silently say, let go. Not as command, but as invitation. Feel the breath carry away the grasping, the weight, the pressure. Sometimes, attachment hides in the body. Physical tension is a sign that something is being held. A clenched jaw, tight shoulders, restless legs. Use mindful touch to guide release. Place your hand gently where the tension lives. Bring warmth and presence there. Speak to the body with care. You don't have to hold this. This small act of tenderness brings deep release. Gratitude can also support renunciation. When you name what you are grateful for, you stop chasing what you think is missing. This reduces craving, which is a form of attachment. Before bed, list 3 things that brought ease, beauty, or connection. Not to distract from difficulty, but to balance it. Gratitude reminds the mind that not everything needs to be fixed. Some things can simply be appreciated. Forgiveness is another doorway. Not always easy, but powerful. If someone's words or actions linger painfully, they become attachments. Releasing them doesn't mean approval. It means freeing yourself from their grip. A simple phrase can open that door. I forgive what I can for now. I release what I cannot control. If you're not ready, say, I'm willing to consider releasing this. Even that begins to untie the knot. Letting go of control is a central part of nighttime renunciation. So much of restlessness comes from the need to manage outcomes, to know what will happen, to shape the future. But night is not for planning. It is for trusting. As you lie down, you can silently remind yourself, I don't need to hold tomorrow. It will arrive without my worry. This trust can be extended even further, into identity, into the stories you tell yourself about who you are, the achiever, the fixer, the one who must keep it all together. These identities are useful in the world, but they are heavy at night. The bed does not need your resume, your reputation, your responsibilities. You can leave them outside the covers. Repeat to yourself, I am not my role. I am not this image. I can return to what I am without all the names. This kind of release allows the self to dissolve, gently, not into nothing, but into presence, into what is left when the labels fall away. Sometimes, renunciation means releasing your grip on how sleep should happen, the idea that you must sleep at a certain time, in a certain way, for a certain length. These thoughts become pressure, and pressure becomes resistance. Let go of the story that sleep must be perfect. Let it be what it is. Trust that rest will come. Trust that you are not in charge of it. You are only creating space for it to arrive. Symbolic actions can also support this letting go. You can place a small bowl or box near your bed. Before sleep, mentally place your worries into it. Visualize setting them down, not erasing them, just holding them outside the mind for now. You can pick them up in the morning if needed, but for now, they are contained. This physical gesture helps the mind understand that the work of the day is done. The boundaries are clear. You have stepped out of doing, into being. Renunciation is not withdrawal. It is choosing peace over possession, stillness over struggle, clarity over control. At night, it becomes the art of setting down what the day asked you to carry. What you set down returns to the world softer. What you release no longer shapes your breath. What you let go of tonight gives you back your life tomorrow. Let this become your final practice before sleep. Sit, breathe, acknowledge, surrender. Not all at once, not perfectly, just honestly. The mind will learn, the body will follow, and rest will arrive not because you chased it, but because you cleared the space for it to enter. As the day dissolves and the attachments fade, you begin to enter a quieter space. You've let go of control, softened the grip of identity, and cleared a path for stillness. But when you strip everything away, something else often rises a question. What is this stillness for? What am I resting into? When all the noise ends, what remains isn't emptiness, it's intention. And that intention shapes what comes next. Sleep is not just rest, it is return. Return to the base of consciousness, to the roots of mind where deep habits form. This space is malleable. It listens. It receives. Whatever you place into it before you sleep begins to grow. It becomes part of your pattern. And that's where the Bodhisattva vow transforms not only your waking life, but your sleep as well. A Bodhisattva is not someone who seeks awakening for themselves alone. It is someone who turns towards suffering not to escape it, but to meet it, to respond with wisdom and compassion. This vow is not just spoken once, it is lived. It becomes the backbone of thought, action, and intention. And when practiced deeply, it begins to shape the unconscious. To sleep with this vow is to plant its essence in the most receptive soil, the mind at rest, the part of you that does not argue, the part that absorbs, stores, and acts from what it knows beneath words. Reprogramming the subconscious does not require force. It requires clarity, repetition, alignment between heart and action. Before sleep, this vow can be quietly renewed, not as pressure, but as offering, not as expectation, but as seed. The phrasing may be traditional or personal. In the traditional Mahayana Buddhist vow, it begins, "Beings are numberless, I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible, I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless, I vow to enter them. The Buddha's path is unsurpassable, I vow to realize it." Speaking this aloud or silently before sleep reshapes the direction of your inner life. It shifts the focus from fear to service, from isolation to connection, from self-centered struggle to open-hearted willingness. The nervous system responds to this. The mind begins to feel safe, not because it is secure, but because it is anchored in meaning. This kind of intention reshapes dream content. It redirects the subconscious toward compassion-based activity. You may find that your dreams begin to reflect more connection, more helping, more clarity. Not always in obvious ways, but subtly. The mind, given this new orientation, searches for opportunities to carry the vow, even in sleep. Scientific studies have shown that the final thoughts before sleep influence dream formation, memory consolidation, and emotional regulation. This means your intention matters more than you realize. It guides the brain's sorting process. It influences what becomes embedded, what becomes your pattern. To embody the Bodhisattva vow in sleep is to release the need to be in control while maintaining clarity of heart. You are not promising to be perfect. You are opening a direction. You are choosing to be shaped by compassion. You are saying to the deeper parts of mind, "I am willing to be a source of benefit, even in rest." This changes how you approach difficult dreams. Instead of rejecting discomfort or confusion, you begin to see even nightmares as opportunities for practice. You can bring compassion to fear. You can meet conflict with clarity. You can reflect kindness into any scenario, even symbolic ones. The subconscious does not distinguish fiction from reality in terms of emotional response. When you meet pain with gentleness in a dream, that response becomes more accessible in waking life. This doesn't mean you must lucid dream. Even without conscious control, the tone of your inner world changes. The dreams may become more symbolic, more instructive, less reactive. Your inner life becomes less about being chased, more about choosing how to respond. The vow also dissolves the illusion of separation. You no longer fall asleep as a lone individual. You rest as part of a larger whole. Your rest becomes a form of service. Not through action, but through intention. This releases the weight of needing to fix everything. You are not called to save the world in a night. You are called to stay open, to return to intention again and again. Over time, this practice cultivates subtle confidence, a sense that your life is not only your own, that even in your most private moments when the eyes are closed and the world has fallen away, you are still aligned with something meaningful. This removes the quiet despair that often lingers beneath anxiety, the despair of purposelessness, of isolation, of forgetting what truly matters. Sleep becomes more than rest. It becomes refuge. And from that refuge, you return each morning steadier, not because everything is easier, but because you remember why you wake. You remember what direction your life moves in. The momentum of compassion carries forward. Even if the day becomes hard, the vow remains. You can also personalize this practice. If the traditional phrases feel distant, speak from your heart. Before sleep, say what matters. May I be of benefit. May my rest support clarity. May my dreams open insight. May I meet all beings with kindness. May I wake ready to serve again. The subconscious responds most deeply to truth. Not elaborate words, but sincere presence. Speak what feels real. Let the vow be a mirror for your own longing to be of use in a world that suffers. Let it be quiet but clear, spoken not to impress, but to remember. You might also include gestures, a hand to the heart, a bow of the head, a pause in the dark. These actions are not decoration. They are bridges. They connect mind to body. They make the vow tangible. They signal to the nervous system that a shift is happening, that you are entering rest not as escape, but as return. This intention also heals the parts of you that feel small, that wonder whether you matter, that question your worth. The Bodhisattva vow says, your being is of value because you choose to benefit others. Not someday, not when perfect, but now, in this body, in this moment, even in sleep. This is not ego, it is responsibility. Joyful, grounded, sacred responsibility. The choice to stay on the path. Even while resting, your sleep then becomes infused with meaning. You no longer dread the night. You no longer fight rest. You step into it as part of your practice, as another form of generosity, as a way to keep the heart open while the body recovers. Let this vow soften your inner world. Let it shape your dreams. Let it carry you into a sleep that heals not only you, but everyone your life touches. Not because you did something dramatic, but because you remembered the direction you are facing. Sleep then, not to escape, but to serve. Let rest prepare you to show up fully. Let the vow continue through the night. Let it work beneath words. Let it reach where habit lives, where karma is stored, where patterns are built. And when you wake, you may not remember your dreams. You may not feel changed, but something deep within you will know. A choice was made, a seed was planted, the vow lives on, in silence, in stillness, in sleep. When the heart aligns with compassion and the vow settles into the quiet layers of sleep, even your rest begins to serve. You no longer sleep, only to recover you. Sleep to renew your ability to be of benefit. And yet, despite all preparation, all sincerity, all alignment, the body may still stay awake. The breath may deepen, the space may soften, and still sleep may not come. This is where the deeper training begins. Sleeplessness, when met with resistance, becomes suffering, but when met with patience, it becomes practice. In Buddhist teachings, chanti is the perfection of patience, not just tolerance, but deep, unwavering acceptance of reality as it is. It is not passive, it is not resignation. It is the quiet strength that allows clarity to stay present even when conditions are difficult. At night, Kshanti is tested in subtle ways. When sleep delays, the mind tightens. It begins counting the hours, calculating the cost of tomorrow, judging the failure of the present. But what makes this painful is not the wakefulness itself, it is the demand for a different experience. The insistence that rest must happen now, exactly as expected. This demand closes the heart and agitates the mind. It turns wakefulness into a problem instead of a process. The practice of Kshanti invites a complete shift in perspective. Wakefulness is not failure. It is sensation. It is breath. It is stillness. It is sound. It is thought. It is presence. You are not outside the path just because your eyes are open at 2 a.m. What changes everything is how you meet this moment. Patience begins by releasing the timeline, the need to sleep by a certain hour, the pressure to function at a specific level. These expectations feed agitation. When released, space opens. In that space, practice becomes possible. You notice the coolness of the air, the weight of the blanket, the texture of the pillow. These sensations are not distractions, they are anchors. They ground the mind in direct experience, not the story of insomnia, but the reality of now. Patience includes the willingness to be with what is uncomfortable. The mind may offer agitation, but you don't have to follow it. You can rest in awareness. You can observe thought as thought, tension as tension, and meet each one with kindness. This is the deeper meaning of Kshanti, not merely waiting, but staying present without complaint, not numbing, but choosing not to react. In sleeplessness, you can feel the impulse to resist and not act on it. That alone is powerful. It rewires your response to discomfort. The body begins to learn, I can be with this and not be overwhelmed. The breath is your companion here. It does not have to be deep or slow. Just noticed. Each inhale is a new beginning. Each exhale, a release. The mind may want to count or control. Let it rest in sensation. Let the breath be enough. Mantras can support this patience. A quiet repetition of "let it be" or "this too belongs" can soften the inner resistance. These phrases become rhythm. The mind listens, the body follows. Patience also means letting go of the story that something is wrong. Wakefulness is not an error. It is a state of mind, temporary, changing, like clouds passing through the night sky. What makes it suffering is the belief that it should not be happening. The body wants rest, but when sleep does not come, rest can still happen. Rest is not limited to unconsciousness. It can be found in presence, in quiet, in stillness. You can remain awake and still be resting. Even when energy does not shift, attention can. Kshanti teaches us to remain where we are with openness, to stop fighting time. The moment you stop trying to be somewhere else, peace begins to form even in wakefulness. You may notice patterns in these moments, how the mind returns to certain worries, how it replays the day or jumps ahead. These are not obstacles. They are insights. The mind is revealing what it carries. And when seen with patience, these patterns soften. You are no longer trapped in them, you are observing them with space. This kind of observation is not cold, it is gentle. It says, I see this thought, I see this fear, I see this memory, and I do not have to do anything with it right now. Even discomfort loses force when held this way. Patience also means letting go of comparison. Other people sleep, other people wake, refreshed. These thoughts seem small, but they add pressure. They reinforce the idea that something is wrong with your experience. Kshanti reminds us that suffering increases when we measure, but when we return to what is here, not what should be, we regain freedom. You are not your sleep pattern, you are not your tiredness, you are the awareness that meets it, that watches it move. This understanding brings dignity to wakefulness. You are not broken, you are alive, you are practicing, you are refining your relationship to discomfort. You are learning how to be present without needing the moment to be different. This is real strength, the kind that stays even when conditions are not ideal. Kshanti also allows room for humor. The gentle smile that arises when you realize you've been chasing sleep like a butterfly, only to see it fly further away. The moment you laugh quietly at the mind's insistence that this one night will ruin everything. That laughter is wisdom. It means you've created space between identity and experience. Let that space grow. Let wakefulness be your teacher. You may choose to sit up, to meditate lightly, to stretch, or simply remain in bed with eyes open. There is no single right response. Patience does not mean waiting passively. It means responding with wisdom, with flexibility, with presence. If you get up, do so slowly. Let the light remain soft. Let the movements be simple. Make tea. Listen to silence. Return to bed without hope or dread. Just return. If you remain lying down, let the body rest anyway. Let the eyes close naturally. Let thoughts come and go. Let breath lead attention. You are not trying to sleep. You are allowing rest. This is not second best. This is the path. Over time, the nervous system begins to understand that wakefulness is not danger, that night is not threat, that presence is available in every state. When this understanding deepens, the body begins to trust again. And with trust, sleep comes. Not on demand, but as a visitor, one that arrives when the conditions are kind. Patience makes those conditions possible. Let Kshanti hold you. Let it shape the way you meet these moments. Let it remind you that even now, when sleep does not come, your practice continues. That awareness remains. That peace is not waiting for a perfect night, it is waiting for presence. And you are here, right now, awake and practicing. The stillness of night does not need to be perfect to hold value. Even the moments of restlessness can carry insight. With patience, you learn to remain present, even without sleep. That presence becomes the practice itself. And when the body finally shifts, when the mind finally drifts, and you cross the line into sleep or into waking again, there is something waiting there too, something more than habit. Something that can carry your practice forward, silently, continuously. That something is intention. The mind, whether asleep or awake, is always shaping itself. Each thought, each feeling, each reaction becomes a kind of imprint. When those imprints are unconscious, they accumulate without direction. But when guided by intention, the mind begins to reorient. It becomes a tool for growth, even when you are not fully aware. This is why the moments before sleep are so powerful. They are not just the end of a day. They are the threshold into a different state of consciousness, and how you enter that state influences how you return. In Buddhist teachings, the paramitas, often translated as the 10 perfectionsari, qualities of mind and heart, that, when developed, lead to awakening. They are not achievements but orientations, not rigid standards but inner commitments. They form the scaffolding for a life that is not ruled by fear but shaped by clarity, generosity, and peace. And they are not limited to waking life. When brought into your final thoughts before sleep, the paramitas can become seeds that influence your dreams, your rest, and your re-entry into waking consciousness. They don't control your experience, but they guide its shape. They offer a direction for the unconscious to follow. They give sleep a deeper purpose. They give morning a stronger foundation. You can treat each paramita as a subtle vow, a soft alignment, a whisper to the deeper layers of mind. May this be remembered, even when I am not watching. The first is generosity dana. Before sleep, Recall a moment of giving, not to praise yourself, but to remind the mind what it feels like to share. Set the intention, may my dreams reflect openness, not grasping. May my rest be an offering to the body. May I wake with a heart ready to give. The second is virtuous sila. Reflect gently on how you used your speech, your actions, your attention, not with guilt, but with care. Ask, without pressure, where can I be more aligned? Set the tone. May my rest renew my integrity. May my body remember restraint. May my mind incline toward kindness. The third is renunciation ek kama. Release the grasping that clung to the day. Let go of what didn't work, what wasn't finished, what didn't go your way. Renunciation is not deprivation, it is peace. Whisper to the heart, may I let go of what no longer serves clarity. May I remember that release is also a form of strength. The fourth is wisdom panya. Invite insight to arise even without effort. The subconscious often processes what the waking mind cannot. Set the direction. May I sleep with a mind that stays curious. May I wake with new understanding. May wisdom unfold without needing control. The fifth is energy virya. This is not about hyperactivity, it is about commitment. The steady effort to return, again and again, to what matters. Let this intention rest with you. May I wake with the energy to continue this path. May my effort be steady, not strained. The sixth is patience ek shanti. Already practiced when sleep did not come, now it continues as a thread. Speak to yourself softly. May I meet all moments with gentleness. May I not rush toward awakening or away from difficulty. May I trust the unfolding, however it appears. The seventh is truthfulness saka. Be honest about where your mind has wandered, about what you still fear, about what you are still learning to meet. Then, offer this. May I meet all experience, waking or dreaming, with honesty. May I not turn away from truth, no matter how quiet it is. The eighth is determination adhitana. This is the resolve that underlies all practice. Not rigid will, but clear direction. Let this vow settle. May I remain committed to awakening, even when I forget. Even in dream, even in confusion, let this direction return again and again. The ninth is loving kindness metta, not as a technique, but as a mood, a tone, a resting place for the heart. Say simply, may I dream with a heart that includes all beings. May I rest in a field of care. May my presence, even in sleep, be a benefit to others. The 10th is equanimity upekkha, the great balance, the mind that sees without being thrown, the heart that holds without collapse. Offer this to your unconscious. May I meet all inner states with calm. May I wake with a mind that sees clearly, without clinging, without aversion. You do not need to recite all 10 formally each night. Even bringing one into focus begins to shift the inner landscape. You are not programming your mind like a machine. You are planting qualities, guiding the inner current, replacing old momentum with presence. This becomes your dream re-entry program, not as escape, but as direction. You are telling the heart, I want to wake in alignment. I want to rest with purpose. I want the space between days to also be part of the path. When waking comes, you may not remember your dreams. You may not feel different. But the day begins with a subtler balance. There is less rush, less reactivity, more readiness. Because the night was not wasted, it was used. It became part of your training. And this training softens the edges of daily life. The reaction that once rose quickly now pauses. The judgment that once held tight now opens. The distraction that once consumed now fades faster. Because the foundation is different. Because the night shaped the mind just as surely as the morning did. You begin to trust sleep, even if it's imperfect. You begin to feel connected, even when unconscious. You begin to understand that this path is not limited by state. Awake or asleep, effortful or restful, the direction holds. The seeds grow. Let the paramitas become more than ideas. Let them become breath, intention, memory. Whisper them into the mind each night. Let them echo in the dark. Let them rise in the morning. This is not only for monks or advanced practitioners. It is for anyone who wants to live with depth, who wants their nights to support their days, who wants their sleep to be more than silence. Let that be your practice now. Close the day not only with rest, but with direction, and let your return be steady, clear, and filled with purpose. When the mind has been nourished by the perfections, and your final thoughts carry the quiet imprint of generosity, truth, and equanimity, something deep begins to shift. The body knows it is safe. The mind knows where it's going. Intention becomes a guide, not a task. And in the stillness between wakefulness and rest, there is one companion that remains soft, steady, and always present: the breath. No matter what the mind has carried through the day or what emotions have stirred the heart, the breath is always near. It asks for nothing. It waits for nothing. It simply moves. And that movement, when seen clearly, becomes more than a bodily function. It becomes refuge. In Buddhist practice, anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, is not just a concentration method. It is a doorway into presence, a direct path to understanding the nature of mind. When used as the last thought before sleep, it becomes the bridge between intention and stillness. It draws the attention inward, away from thinking, toward sensation, from narrative to now. Letting the breath be your final anchor is not complex. It does not require control or technique. It simply requires noticing. You allow the inhale to arrive. You feel its entry. You follow the exhale as it leaves, without trying to extend it, without needing to evaluate it. The breath becomes the only object. And in that simplicity, the mind begins to settle. The rhythm of breathing naturally slows when watched. The body's systems begin to respond. Heart rate decreases. Blood pressure softens. The parasympathetic nervous system becomes dominant. Melatonin increases. Cortisol lowers. These are not spiritual ideas. They are physiological responses to attention and safety. Making the breath your last thought does not mean forcing attention. It means returning to breath as the background of awareness, letting thoughts rise and fall without being pulled, letting emotion be felt but not followed, letting sensation pass through while remaining centered. This practice begins as you lie down. Let the body settle. Allow the limbs to grow heavy. Then shift attention to the tip of the nose or the rise and fall of the belly. Let awareness rest there, not sharply, not tightly, just enough to keep from drifting fully into thought. You may notice the mind wander. That is expected. The role of anapanasati is not to stop thought. It is to hold something steady beneath it. Each time the mind drifts, you return to the breath. This is the practice, not in succeeding, but in returning. Over time, the moments of awareness grow longer. The space between thought becomes wider. Sleep comes not because you chased it, but because you no longer feed the mind anything to cling to. The breath is simple, uninteresting to the ego, but nourishing to awareness. Before sleep, attention can move through the 4 stages of anapanasati as described by the Buddha. First, the breath is known in its full length, inhaling deeply, exhaling fully. Then, attention shifts to its calming effect on the body. You observe the body's release as breath flows. The third stage observes the mind itself, its quieting, its settling. And the fourth uses the breath to let go of mental formations, dropping into a state of complete ease. This progression happens naturally with familiarity. The more time you spend with the breath, the more it becomes a refuge, a place where the thinking mind no longer dominates, where presence replaces pressure, Letting the breath be your final focus also helps dissolve identity. There is no one to perform, no one to fix, no role to hold. The breath asks for nothing but awareness. It doesn't care what you achieve today. It doesn't care what tomorrow will bring. It just flows. You are not guiding it. You are witnessing it. And in that witnessing, the self begins to soften. This softening is essential for sleep. Most restlessness comes not from physical discomfort, but from the self trying to continue beyond its moment. When the self rests in the breath, it no longer grasps, no longer plans, no longer defines itself by what it does or doesn't do. You are not trying to breathe mindfully to get to sleep. You are using breath to return to what is always here. When that return is complete, sleep happens naturally. Not because you created it, but because the conditions were right. You can enhance this practice by connecting it with gentle phrases. On the inhale, silently say, "Here." On the exhale, "Now." Or simply feel the wordless rhythm breathing in awareness, breathing out tension. If the mind is agitated, count the breath. Inhale 1, exhale 1, inhale 2, exhale 2. Continue to 10, then begin again. This counting is not rigid, it's a support. It gives the mind just enough structure to stay anchored. If emotion rises, meet it with breath. Let the breath hold it. Let it be known, then released. No suppression, no drama, just presence. When sleep finally comes, it will come into a mind that is already resting. A mind that is no longer seeking escape or perfection. A mind that has let go of narrative and returned to what is most basic, most constant, most kind. In this way, the breath becomes more than a sleep aid. It becomes your teacher, your companion, your path. Every night, it is there. Every moment, it waits. And each time you return, you are reminded, this is enough, this breath, this presence, this stillness. Let that be your final thought. Not something to accomplish, just something to rest in. Let the breath carry you. Let the body follow. Let awareness stay. As the breath becomes your final thought, the body follows its rhythm, and the mind begins to soften. You've stepped away from needing to solve, fix, or become anything. Attention has narrowed into stillness. But beneath that quiet, something remains: subtle imprints, emotional residue, thoughts that didn't fully leave when the breath took center stage. What sleep doesn't resolve, awareness must. The mind stream, this continuous flow of sensations, memories, and thoughts, does not simply pause because we wish to rest. It carries the impressions of every word spoken, every judgment formed, every moment ignored. Without conscious reflection, these impressions stack up, they gather weight, and over time, they create inner clutter, reactivity, confusion, emotional exhaustion. This is why the Buddha offered a complete system to bring clarity to this stream, a method not just for focus or relaxation, but for deep internal purification. That method is Satipatthana, 4 foundations of mindfulness. These 4 areas: body, feeling, mind, and Dhamma, not stages to master. They are portals of observation. Together, they offer a way to scan the landscape of experience, not with analysis, but with clarity. When brought into the moments before sleep, they act like a filter. Not one that forces thoughts away, but one that allows what's present to pass through, be seen, and dissolve. You begin with the body, because that is what's closest. The foundation of mindfulness of the body is not limited to breath or movement. It includes posture, contact, temperature, texture. Before sleep, awareness can gently scan from the crown of the head to the soles of the feet, not to find what's wrong, but to connect fully. This process returns the wandering mind to form. It grounds attention. When the body is truly felt, tension is often released without needing to be solved. The scan itself is the resolution. You may notice small discomforts or areas of heaviness. The practice is not to escape them, but to be with them. This trains the nervous system to tolerate and settle. The body begins to understand that attention is safety, that nothing needs to be held in secret. Even pain, when seen clearly, loses its sharpness. The second foundation is feeling Vedana, not mood, not emotion, but the raw tone of experience. Every moment has a feeling tone, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. As you reflect on the day, certain interactions or thoughts may arise. Don't get pulled into their story. Ask instead, how did that feel? What was its flavor? Recognizing feeling tones gives insight into how craving and aversion operate. It's not the content of thought that fuels restlessness, but the grasping or resisting of how it feels. Before sleep, you can allow these tones to surface. You can watch how the mind pulls toward what felt good or away from what felt bad. Noticing this movement weakens its hold. You begin to see that the feeling isn't the problem, it's the clinging that follows it. By attending to feeling, you begin to unhook. You stop spinning narratives around discomfort. You stop chasing what has already passed. The mind stops chewing on the same fragments of the day. There is nothing to get rid of, only something to feel and let go. The third foundation is Mindfulness. This is the quality of the mind itself. Is it restless, focused, sluggish, open, contracted? This is not about fixing the mind's state. It's about naming it, watching it. You don't try to change anxiety, you simply recognize, anxious mind is here. You don't force relaxation, you note, soft mind is present. The power in this lies in non-identification. When you see the mind's state clearly, it becomes a passing event, not a definition. You are not your scatteredness, you are not your clarity. These are conditions, not essence. This allows peace to arise not by controlling the mind, but by seeing through its momentum. In the moments before sleep, this is especially powerful. You're not trying to quiet the mind, you're just watching what state it's in. You let it be what it is, without resistance. That lack of resistance becomes stillness. Finally, you observe Dhammathe patterns of truth. In this foundation, you apply the lens of wisdom. You reflect on impermanence, on the nature of suffering, on the fact that nothing arises independently. In practical terms, this means recognizing that whatever you're holding from the day, whether praise or blame, gain or losses, not fixed. It will change. It is already changing. This insight brings release. You stop trying to preserve pleasure or erase discomfort. You see how the mental habits driving your suffering are not new. They are old loops, conditioned reactions, and you are no longer inside them, you are watching them from clarity. This fourth foundation also includes watching the hindrances: desire, aversion, sloth, restlessness, doubt. Before sleep, you can reflect gently. What is arising right now? Is the mind craving something, pushing something away? Does it feel dull or tense? You don't judge. You just notice. This noticing breaks the cycle. The hindrance weakens the moment it's seen for what it is. This is mental purification, not through effort, but through awareness. Together, these four foundations form a kind of cleansing, not one that removes anything forcibly, but one that reveals what is present so that it can pass. You are not holding your experience. You are allowing it to move through. Before sleep, this is the most compassionate thing you can do for your mind. Instead of dragging unresolved tension into the unconscious, you meet it, you acknowledge it. You let it rest in the light of mindfulness. This practice is not long. Even 5 or 10 minutes of focused attention on the foundations before bed can shift your entire night. You lie down cleaner, not physically, but mentally. The dreams change. The emotional tone shifts. The body softens, because the mind is no longer holding what it doesn't need. You're not trying to be pure. You're trying to be honest. You're not trying to fix your mind. You're learning to see it. That clarity is the detox, That attention is the filter. That presence is the medicine. Let Satipatthana guide you into sleep as a continuation of awareness, not the end of it. Let it help you see what's still lingering. Let it teach you what can be released. Let it clear the stream before the next day begins. This is not preparation for sleep. It is part of the practice itself. It's how you end the day, not with avoidance, but with insight, not with noise, but with knowing. And in that knowing, something opens, something steady, something light. That's where rest begins, not from silence, but from seeing clearly. Clarity doesn't always come from effort. Sometimes it arises simply by observing. Through the 4 foundations of mindfulness, you've learned to see the patterns of body, feeling, mind, and truth, not to fix them, but to recognize them without flinching. That recognition clears space. It lets experience breathe. But there's one layer that often remains hidden, even through mindfulness. A voice so constant we forget it's there. A commentary so familiar we no longer question it. That voice is the inner dialogue. It follows you into silence. It shapes your self-image. It judges, compares, accuses, and sometimes flatters. It disguises itself as helpful. It pretends to motivate. But beneath its surface, much of that voice carries something more harmful than we realize. It carries violence. Not the loud kind, not physical, but the quiet, mental kind that leaves you exhausted. The kind that goes unchecked because it's considered normal. In Buddhist ethics, ahimsa non harming is a foundational principle. It guides speech, action, livelihood. But the most overlooked domain of non-harming is the way we speak to ourselves. We may never shout at a friend the way we shout inwardly when we make a mistake. We may not hold others to impossible standards the way we hold ourselves. And this quiet cruelty, over time, shapes our mind stream. It creates tension. It poisons rest. It becomes the background of our entire experience. Understanding this is not about guilt. It's about recognizing that the mind has learned to turn against itself, not because you're broken, but because the patterns were never questioned. Internal dialogue begins early. We hear how others speak to us. We absorb the tone. We repeat it without awareness. What was once external becomes internalized. A narrative forms. I'm not enough. I should be better. I always mess this up. And these thoughts start to sound like truth. But they are not truth. They are habits. And like any habit, they can be changed. The first step is awareness. You begin to notice the tone of your inner voice. Not just the words, but the feeling behind them. Is it impatient, demanding, cold? When you forget something, what is your first thought? When you feel anxious, what does your mind say in response? This moment of noticing is powerful. It stops the cycle. It makes space for compassion. In Buddhist teaching, right speech isn't just about what comes out of the mouth. It's about intention, impact, and alignment with truth. When applied internally, it becomes a method of healing. You start to bring ethics into the most intimate layer of your life. You start to treat yourself with the same care you'd offer a friend, not as a tactic, but as a commitment. Non-harming speech is grounded in understanding. You do not speak harshly to someone in pain. So when the mind is restless, or shame arises, or fear tightens the chest, your internal language must soften, not with fake positivity, but with real attention. This is hard, and I'm still here. This hurts, but I don't need to attack myself. These are not affirmations, they are ethics in action. You also begin to watch for subtle violences, sarcasm, comparison, exaggeration. The mind says, I'm always like this. Everyone else has it figured out. This again? Really? These thoughts may seem small, but they create identity. They reinforce stories, and they violate the principle of harmlessness by turning perception into punishment. To change this, You return to the precepts. You apply them inward. Speak truth to yourself, but without aggression. Use language that acknowledges error without blame. Offer encouragement without manipulation. Give space without withdrawal. The result is a mind that can rest inside itself, that doesn't need to escape, that doesn't feel like a hostile place. This internal shift has direct effects on sleep. The moment you lie down, the inner voice often gets louder. It replays the day. It criticizes what went wrong. It imagines what should have been done differently. When that voice is aggressive, the body cannot relax. The nervous system remains alert. You are, unconsciously, in defense mode. But when internal dialogue is kind, the body begins to release, the breath slows, the jaw softens, the heart rate evens out, because the mind is no longer attacking itself. This is not about perfection. Everyone slips into old language. What matters is that you notice, that you return, that you reframe. That was a mistake becomes, that was something to learn from. I can't do this becomes, this is difficult and I can take one step. I failed again becomes, I met my limit and I'm still showing up. None of this requires belief in a permanent self. In fact, the more you observe inner speech, the more you see how impersonal it is. These thoughts don't belong to you. They arise, they pass. They reflect past conditioning. When viewed with awareness, they lose their power. This is the function of Buddhist ethics. They are not commandments. They are reflections of harmony. When you apply them to your speech, even silently, the result is less friction, less inner war, more peace. In addition to reframing inner dialogue, silence can also become a form of kindness. You don't need to replace every harmful thought with a better one. Sometimes you just don't feed the pattern. You watch the thought arise and fall without response. That restraint is not suppression, it's freedom. You are choosing not to amplify harm. This restraint is supported by practices of loving kindness. When practiced regularly, phrases of goodwill begin to replace the harsh inner narrative. May I be safe. May I be free from suffering. May I meet this moment with compassion. These are not meant to cover over difficulty. They are meant to plant new seeds. Over time, the default tone of your mind begins to change. Judgment becomes inquiry. Harshness becomes patience. Reactivity becomes presence. And in this environment, real rest is possible. Because a mind that doesn't harm itself can finally rest. This rest is not just physical. It is emotional, mental, karmic. It is the absence of internal conflict, the absence of hostility, the presence of care. Let this be your practice. Let your internal speech reflect your deepest values. Let every phrase be a step toward non-harming. Let your mind become a place where compassion lives not as a concept, but as a language. And in that language, may you find rest. Not because you earned it, but because you stopped interrupting it. Because you remembered. Ahimsa begins where violence was never expected to be found, and you brought the light there anyway. When the harshness of internal dialogue is replaced with compassion, the space inside the mind changes. It becomes gentler, quieter, and more trustworthy. The voice that once attacked now observes. The language that once harmed now soothes. And in this softness, something else becomes visible, something that was always there, but hidden beneath reactivity. It is the wheel of habit, the engine of momentum, the unconscious cycle that continues turning even when you want to rest. It is samsara. Samsara is not a place, it is a process. It is the conditioned cycle of craving, clinging, aversion, becoming, and reacting. It keeps the mind spinning in patterns that create suffering. Not because the mind is broken, but because it is deeply trained in movement. At night, when the body slows down and external stimulation fades, this wheel doesn't always stop. It continues through thought, memory, and reaction. The stories of the day reappear. The mind relives conversations, predicts outcomes, replays regrets. This is not harmless activity. It is the continuation of karma. Karma does not wait for waking life. It moves in the spaces in between. It moves in how you respond to your own thoughts. Each reaction, even internal, leaves an imprint. And each imprint adds to the stream. This is why the hours before sleep carry so much power. They are not the edge of consciousness. They are the place where deeper currents surface. And how you meet those currents determines whether you perpetuate the wheel or begin to slow it. Non-reactivity is the key, not as passivity, but as deep intelligence. It is the decision not to feed what arises, not to suppress it, not to indulge it, but to remain present. A thought appears. You see it. You don't follow. A memory stirs pain. You acknowledge it. You don't push it away. A desire calls. You feel the pull. You let it pass. This stillness in response begins to weaken the links in the chain. In Buddhist psychology, reactivity is what transforms experience into suffering. Feeling itself is not suffering. Thought itself is not the problem. It is the craving, the grasping, the pushing, the identifying that gives the wheel its momentum. When a pleasant thought arises and you cling to it, the wheel turns. When an unpleasant one arises and you resist it, the wheel turns again. Non-reactivity is the moment you step off. This stepping off is not dramatic, it's subtle. It happens each time you see thought as thought, sensation as sensation, emotion as movement, and do nothing but watch. You are not avoiding life. You are remaining in contact without being swept away. Nighttime offers a rare opportunity to practice this, because the distractions are fewer, the roles are paused, the mask slips. What's left is the raw momentum of the mind, the habit to judge, to fix, to worry, to fantasize, to plan. These are all forms of becoming micro-identities the mind clings to in the absence of outer activity. When you lie in bed and a thought comes, I didn't do enough today. Tomorrow will be hard. I need to fix this. The instinct is to react, to solve it, to argue with it. But each reaction feeds the mind's compulsion to act. Samsara grows stronger, not because of the content, but because of the reactivity itself. Instead, when these thoughts arise, pause. Acknowledge the thought. Name it gently. Worry, judgment, craving, fear. Then return to the breath, to the sensation of lying down, to the quiet of the room. You are not running from the thought. You are refusing to participate in its momentum. This refusal is not rejection, it is wisdom. The mind will try to return to familiar patterns, that is its nature. But the more you meet those patterns with stillness, the weaker they become. Over time, the mind learns a new response. Openness without engagement, attention without identification, presence without participation. This is the practice of stopping the wheel. It is not a full halt all at once, but each moment of non-reaction is a slowing. Each refusal to cling is a loosening. Each breath taken without chasing thought is a turning in a different direction. Eventually, even dreams begin to reflect this stillness, because the karmic momentum that shapes dream content is being interrupted. What you choose not to feed becomes less frequent. What you allow to pass begins to lose power. Non-reactivity also affects the body. Reactivity creates tension-tight jaw, racing heart, shallow breath. Each time the mind reacts, the body braces. But when you remain still, the body begins to trust. It realizes nothing needs to be fixed, nothing needs to be defended. The breath deepens, the nervous system calms. The body enters a state where healing can begin. This is liberation not in theory, but in lived experience. You are not escaping the world, you are interrupting the mechanics of suffering. You are training the mind to meet life without the compulsive need to change it. This practice doesn't mean ignoring injustice or discomfort. It means recognizing that reactivity is not the same as response. You can still act, you can still care, but you are no longer ruled by the momentum of unconscious habits. At night, this means letting go of the need to resolve everything before sleep, the conversation that didn't end well, the problem that remains open, the emotion that still lingers. These may not be finished, but you can finish your participation in them for now. Say to yourself, this is enough for today, not because everything is solved, but because you are choosing not to carry it into another cycle of reactivity. This choice is quiet, but it is powerful. You may notice resistance at first. The mind will insist, but if I don't think this through now, I'll lose control. That's the voice of samsara. That's the illusion of safety through thought. You are not abandoning responsibility. You are ending a cycle that no longer serves. Use the body as your anchor, the warmth of the covers, the rhythm of the breath, the feeling of your weight against the mattress. Let the senses remind you, there is nowhere else to be. Let the body's stillness teach the mind to stop running. The breath becomes a signal. Inhale awareness, exhale release. Non-reactivity is not dullness. It is alert rest. It is watching without being caught. It is presence without preference. It is the willingness to be here fully without needing the moment to become anything else. And when the moment no longer needs to change, suffering begins to fade. The karmic wheel slows, not because life is easier, but because the fuel is gone. Let this be your practice. At night, when the world is quiet and the mind begins to stir, let your response be stillness. Let thoughts arise and pass. Let emotions appear and soften. Let the wheels spin without you on it. And in that stillness, you will find not emptiness, but freedom. The kind that doesn't shout, the kind that doesn't depend, the kind that simply is. Because you finally stopped turning and remembered how to stay. The wheel has slowed, reactivity has faded. You've stopped trying to fix every thought and have begun to rest within what arises. That pause in reaction is not the end of the path, it is the space where something new begins. And in that space, particularly during the night, a unique stillness appears. A stillness many try to avoid, but one that practitioners for centuries have turned toward. While most of the world sleeps or struggles against sleeplessness, others choose to remain awake, not as punishment, but as practice. In Buddhist monastic life, nighttime wakefulness is not a problem to solve. It is a sacred window. It is seen not as a failure of rest, but as an invitation. The silence of the early hours offers a quality of mind and environment that is hard to find elsewhere. The distractions are minimal. The senses are quieter. Identity loosens. There's less noise inside and out. In this space, monks don't reach for sleep. They sit, they walk, they contemplate. And in doing so, they meet themselves in a way that daytime often doesn't allow. This is not about discipline alone. It's about opportunity. The night is not empty. It is full of insights that only become visible when the usual mental noise has faded. The body, no longer pulled into tasks and roles, becomes still. And in that stillness, clarity emerges. Monks across traditions from the Theravada forest monasteries to the Mahayana temples structure their day with an awareness that the night holds something special. In many traditions, the monastic schedule includes midnight meditation or pre-dawn walking practice. These hours are not forced. They are embraced as times when the mind, undistracted and softened, can turn inward with more ease. This practice is built on a simple truth. Not all wakefulness is the same. Wakefulness rooted in anxiety leads to exhaustion. Wakefulness rooted in intention opens into presence. It's not the state that matters, it's how it's met. When you wake in the middle of the night, or when sleep doesn't arrive, you are not lost. You are in a moment that monks have sought out for centuries. a moment that holds less friction, more honesty, and deeper access to the inner landscape. There is no rush, there is no task. The mind, when not expected to perform, becomes receptive. Monks use these hours not for effortful striving, but for grounded awareness, a slow walking meditation, a seated practice with attention on breath, reflection on teachings. These are not done as rituals, they are methods for stabilizing the mind when the veil of distraction is naturally thinner. In your own life, this can become practice too. If you wake in the night, you can choose not to panic, not to judge, not to grasp at solutions. Instead, you can pause, you can breathe. You can sit up slowly or remain lying down with awareness. You can feel the sensations of your body, the movement of air, the weight of your presence. This is meditation. This is what monks are doing when the world sleeps. They are not avoiding rest. They are entering deeper rest through presence. What makes the midnight hours powerful is not their silence alone, but your relationship to that silence. Most people fill every pause with content, but monks use the pause to see, to hear, to observe their own habits of mind, to understand how suffering begins and how peace arises when the mind stops clinging. Even a short period of mindful awareness during the night can be transformative. You begin to see your thoughts with more space. You begin to notice patterns that daytime busyness hides. There may be restlessness, fear, grief, or even moments of great calm. Whatever arises, you are not there to fix it. You are there to meet it. And by meeting it, you shift your relationship with it. Monks are trained to see time differently. The middle of the night is not wasted. It is precious. It is a chance to practice when the world is not looking, when the roles are quiet, when the mind has fewer places to hide. You can take inspiration from this, not to copy their routines, but to recognize that your wakefulness is not meaningless. It can become a space for clarity, for insight, for freedom. You don't need to sit formally to benefit. Even lying in bed, awareness can be steady. You can listen to your breath. You can feel your heartbeat. You can repeat a quiet phrase or mantra. You can bring to mind the qualities of patience, compassion, or clarity. Let the wakefulness become gentle. Let it be something you lean into rather than resist. The wisdom of monks reminds us that not all spiritual work happens during the day. In fact, some of the most subtle and lasting insight arises in the hours most people try to escape. When you stop seeing the night as a barrier, it becomes a gateway. The lack of light is not darkness, it is quiet illumination. The absence of sleep is not failure. It is a chance to see how much of your identity is tied to control. This is what monks learn through nightly practice, that everything changes in the dark. The layers that usually protect the self begin to dissolve, and in that dissolution, you can watch what remains. What thoughts still loop, what fears still echo, what longings still persist. None of them are problems to fix, they are teachers to observe. When you treat the night as sacred, it changes. It no longer becomes time to endure. It becomes time to listen. You don't need long hours or monastic robes. You need presence. You need willingness. You need the courage to stay. Let your night be more than absence of sunlight. Let it be filled with attention. If sleep comes, let it come. If it doesn't, meet the moment the way a monk would, with care, with clarity, and with enough humility to learn from what's here. The path of awakening doesn't pause because the sun has set. It continues quietly, subtly, through every hour. Even now, especially now, you've just traveled through over 3 hours of timeless wisdom, not ancient in distance, but alive in this very breath. Together, we explored the quiet power of emptiness, the sacred art of falling asleep with presence, the healing intelligence of dreams, the warmth of the 4 immeasurables, and the silent strength of letting go. We watched identity dissolve. We turned the bed into an altar. We met the restless mind, not with resistance but with patience. We learned to fall asleep with compassion and wake up with purpose. And in the darkest hours, we discovered what monks have known for centuries, that even wakefulness can be holy when met with stillness. This wasn't a list of hacks, it was a path. Now, it's your turn to carry it forward. Not perfectly, but sincerely. Let the breath guide you, let awareness hold you, and let the night become part of your practice, not separate from it. If this journey resonated with you, even one insight, one breath, one shift, leave a comment below and share what moved you most. I read every single one. This is how we grow together, quietly, steadily, like the breath itself. And if you want more wisdom like this, more silence wrapped in sound, subscribe to the channel. Your journey is still unfolding. Let's walk it together. Rest well, sleep deeply, and return awake, aware and whole.